G'day, Blakes and Sheilas. How are we today? What's going down? Well, what's going down? This beverage, the one I can afford at the moment. Everything's on full survival mode and ration mode. And I'm sure many Australians are also feeling the same pain. When will the people indeed wake up? That is the big question. But here's a big sips to all you beautiful freedom fans, you freedom fighters, and of course, freedom lovers. Sips. Well, it's been another horrific week on planet Earth, where the lunatic brigade are in full fucking firing mode again. A lot of things I contemplated over the week, as you know, things come to you, and you know, unlikely places we can all find things. The big question, what's it all about, really, isn't it? That's what we're all wondering. Why? What are they up to? What are they doing? You know, I mean, we can see blowing up, killing people, raping, murdering, drinking children's blood, the usual shit that we've come to become used to here on planet Earth, the same kind of sick fuckadry that has always been here for thousands of years at the very least. I often wonder what it all looked like a long time ago. What is the true reality, the true nature of existence? What does it all really mean? At the end of the day, what their ultimate goal is, it seems to be global domination. How do they achieve that? Well, we're watching it happen in real time. It's that fucking simple. How much of this is panic moves, though? Those are the questions I ask you. Is Trump being played? Is Trump a part of it? Was Trump releasing the Epstein files that link back to a certain nation and a certain cabal of evil fucking pricks? The reason that he's been set up, was it the fact that he went through the first presidency not engaging in fucking massive war campaigns? We better put Biden in for a little while we try to figure out what we're going to do with this guy. Was he actually was the assassination attempt on him even real, or was he just quick blood pouch? We don't know. At the end of the day, where's that investigation going? Can you hear anything about it? It's like they just throw shit at us, left after right, after left after right, backwards and forwards. Does any of this shit even come up as believable anymore? Can we believe anything? Well, I guess the answer is fundamentally fuck no. You can't believe a goddamn thing, these fuckwits. Holy shit, I started. Fuck. Just as well I wasn't drinking when I read that, Harps. Fuck. Sips. Well, look, stranger things have happened. I'm going to keep you fuckers on your toes as best as I can, mate? Speaking of which, Harps sent me a link. Give me a second to retrieve it. I'll just, this is the podcast that Harps and I worked on, or it was Harps and his friends' podcast. I'm just going to punch it here into the comments for anybody who wants to have a look. Yes, it's all very heavy metal. One of my sons thoroughly enjoyed it, that's for sure. Wow, this is right up my alley, Dad. So he's pretty happy to see it. I don't really pop in till about 2 hours 15 in. There was a discrepancy there with good old daylight savings. Another example of stupidity on this planet. Pick a fucking time, guys. How hard is it if you don't like the time that it is and you needed to change it? Why did you change it back? These are the stupid fucking questions we have to continuously ask ourselves as the lunatics are in charge of the asylum. That is for sure. And if you're not insane, don't worry. We've got a drug to cure that problem. We'll make sure you're just as mad as the rest of the fucking hatter. G'day, Jake. How you going, buddy? Always good to see you, mate. Victoria, how are you? I see people on bright and early in there. Adrian, I seen bragging a little bit earlier. No, Jason. Yes, it was Jason. Jason and Leander were the first in the door at Facebook, apparently. So good to see you guys are keen as mustard and on time like myself, which is always good. So anyway, let's get into this shit show, eh? The good old Alpoo memesies. Yep, and there is a good old example of the grubbery and the artistic genius of the Australian people is possibly one of the only ones that's really funny, because as I've been stating the last few weeks, fundamentally, the laughter seems to have gone out of the world. Actually, it got me. I was talking to somebody just last week, I'll keep names and, things away, but I could only assume, he coming from a place of wanting to be positive, couldn't quite understand why everybody's so negative and hateful on the internet. It's just like, well, that's what the internet's for, with the first words out of my fucking mouth. What do you expect? I'm thinking, like, the world has gone to hell in a handbasket. We have grubs like this running the asylum right now, and they're running it into the ground. The only thing they can afford is more fucking mass media dope pills to keep everybody doped up. And of course, when that doesn't work, we've got the big ass fear campaign that we're seeing coming forwards in the shape of war, in the shape of fuel insecurity, in the shape of all these other things. Of course, people are angry and lashing out. They're pissed off. Unfortunately, most of them don't understand who to be pissed off at, because they only just started to wake up. There's a whole bunch who are just seeing themselves as, I've been inconvenienced. And that's about as far as they look, but it's okay. The gladiatorial combatants of the Colosseums are still running amok. Somebody was telling me it's something like $150 to get a half decent seat at the stadium here at Townsville to watch grown men play with their fucking balls in public. Seriously, if you can afford to spend that much money watching grown men play with their balls in public, and then spend a further $10 to $15 for a mid-strength fucking beer, seriously, you've got some disposable income. And I would, for one, would appreciate, maybe $5 or $10 a month, if you don't mind jumping on the Patreon and supporting the channel. It'd really go a long way to helping me survive. For those of you who have been watching for a long time, I have some serious back pain problems. My sleeping is totally fucked. I only woke up just a few hours ago. And when I do go down, I only go down for a few hours, as long as the painkillers last, basically. And yeah, like earlier when I attempted a nap / sleep, whatever you want to call it, I couldn't. Just pain shooting in my foot. It is literally a pain. But anyway, if you'd like to help contribute to my economic disaster, I mean, who can afford it though? I guess that's part of the plan, isn't it? To economically destroy anybody who is not a part of the cabal. Only evil is allowed to have the economic control collar released enough for you to have an abundance. And of course, if you don't play the game, that will be taken away from you, as we've seen many, many times. Anyway, rant over, I guess. Why is everybody angry? This prick and his cohorts of evil assholes. And, the alleged opposition, which isn't much of an opposition at all. If anything, it's a decaying remnant. But anyway, our new laws to crack down on petrol price gouging have just passed Parliament. We're doubling penalties for companies doing the wrong thing, says the fuckwit himself, because there's no excuse for increasing profits at the expense of Australians. Really? This guy's the chief operator of that kind of filth. What a cockknocker. So let's have a look at what the Australian people seem to think of it. Well, actually, the first thing happens is X itself comes up and says, bullshit. Something that was continuously pointed out in the comments section. But, what about the price gouging you cunts doing with the fuel excise? I'm going to apologize for the language as best I can. I know I'm fluent in it myself. But at the end of the day, this is the aggression, the happiness, of the Australian people. You are a fraud. This does nothing to reduce prices. 75 cents per litre is tax, you thieving bastard. So exactly. Who's price gouging here? Who's ripping off the Australian public? Let's face it, it's Albo and his cohorts. And of course, the Liberal Party are just as fucking guilty. It's a shame our country isn't self-sufficient, which, again, has got to be the easiest thing to achieve here. When will everyone wake up? That is the ultimate $1 million question. I mean, clearly there are a lot of people waking up, and it's constantly stated in various places that I look and stated myself that one of the best things that ever come out of COVID was the awakening has begun. And I imagine the same fucking thing is going to happen with the madness that is pursuing yet again as control and restriction happens. You could cut the fucking fuel excise, you filthy grub. Hence, we started with the grub. At Grok, how much does the government collect in tax for every dollar spent at the Bowser? Exactly. Who's price gouging? Who's thieving here? You know, the worst prime minister in Australian history, of course, you know, and his cohorts and all the other vile fucking venomous scum who sit around and pretend they give a shit when the only thing they really care about is themselves. You know, they're Kabbalists. They're fucking, you know, reading from the holy text. So it shall be written, so it shall be done, as above, so below, all the same bullshit we continuously hear, you know. Well, if what's happening here come from above, well, we're going to look into that a little bit later. Anyway, so of course, everybody's been doctoring the image as should be done. Yeah, Australian Labor. I'm the Prime Minister, and I'm here to help. You seem we ear by elbow. Yeah, rightio. Speaks for itself, doesn't it? I cannot agree more. Quite possibly. I mean, he's hung out at enough Mardi Gras to try and secure votes from the mentally ill. You know, there's a blank one. Actually, I'm going to put that into Telegram for anybody who'd like to, you know, perhaps suggest their own things. I'll do it later. You know, remind me. You know, there's a blank one there, you know, so somebody else posted it up there in case, excuse me, in case somebody needed it, you know, they made life a bit easy. I sold off Australia's fuel reserves and have no plan to fix anything. Of course, that is the plan. The plan is to have no plan, because what are they trying to do? Fuck you up, deprive you of your wealth, deprive you of your freedom to move. And we know what freedom is. Freedom is how many dollar signs you have in your bank account. What does freedom look like? Well, you want to know how free you are? Drop your wallet, drop your phone, start walking, see how far you get before, holy shit, I need a buck. Yep, he's useless, all right. The most useless fuckwit. Well, he's not completely useless, let's face it. If you're a puppet for demonic forces, if you're a puppet for absolute evil, if you're a puppet for complete control, if you're a puppet for the globalist new world order run by a shadowy cabal of God knows fucking what or whom, then I guess he has his uses. But for the rest of us, yep, tits on a bull, mate. Tits on a bull. This bill does not stop price rises. No shit, Sherlock. Yep, it's just more hot air, more wasted paper, you know. And remember, we were supposed to go digital to save paper. Well, Albo didn't get that email. Didn't get the letter either. Wow. If only Albo really was this talented, you know. I honestly don't think Albo could have drawn that. I think it's far too creative and intelligent for someone like him. And it suggests a happy family. And that is something that communists adamantly oppose. And there's bright sunny days. You know, we can't have that. We've got shit to spray in the sky and fuck with your weather. Yep, this guy could not have drawn this. It is not an accurate artistic representation. I'm calling fraud on that. Wow. As if I planned it. Sips. But did I? Anyway, you have to stop and wonder, how did they get in there? The picture really does speak for itself in a lot of ways. Yeah. But of course, he's the chosen. He has been chosen. We're going to tie this all together in the end. A chosen one. There he is, one of the chosen ones doing the bidding of his master. Do you reckon Scott Morrison has been to the petrol station lately? Well, you guys in Parliament don't drive yourselves around, do you? No, we pay for that. So probably not. Petrol prices are surging on his watch. Well, Albo, you got to love it when history bites you on the ass, you fucking twat. Right, weak men create hard times. Yes, and puppets certainly are weak men. You know, who's pulling his strings? So, of course, some more wonderful comments from the general public here. What are you, fuckwits, even in government for, when you are literally achieving nothing for the people of Australia? Well, I think the question in itself is exactly accurate. You know, I mean, what are they in government for? Well, it's not for you. I mean, the last podcast was titled "Government Does Not Work for You." So who do they work for? Have you figured it out yet? Why won't you reduce the excise? I wonder, because he's price gouging himself. You know, how much can we penalize you personally for selling out reserves and not filing them whilst breaching IEA regs and leaving us dry? Why haven't you done 5 years, 270 barrel deal with the US yet? That's a good question. You know, the US is such a good friend right now. Why are we in such strife? Why did they start a fucking another war, which it's always the same. You know, you can go back to every point where we've had one of these stupid fucking wars, and what happens? Petrodollar, let's kick it in. Let's turn up the fucking Bowser price. It happens every time. It's like clockwork. Is anyone bored of this shit yet? I mean, obviously, if you're one of these, you know, new generations, I don't know, what are they, Gen Zs or millennials or whatever fucking stupid name they've given the younger generation this week, at the end of the day, they're fundamentally new to this, haven't had to experience it. All the poor fucking 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds who have not experienced this bullshit yet are suddenly getting to see a good taste of what war really looks like. That's right. They fight, you pay. Fuck them. Why are you receiving increased profits via higher income taxes and fuel excise? I mean, clearly his propaganda campaign is not working. Yep. There is no excuse for Australia to be in this position. Couldn't agree more. You know, why don't you crack down on excise and GST? Of course not. Why would they cut their own supply off? That's literally blowing up your own supply lines. And we are in war, so we've got to start thinking about this. Anybody played any war strategy games? Fundamentally, you got to understand things like, you know, World of Warcraft before it became a stupid online fucking thing, you know, and, you know, Rise of Nations and what was it, Red Alert and Command and Conquer and these kind of video games. You know, the first thing you got to do is build your resource network and start bringing in power and resources and things so you can build your shit. All right. Well, what are we building? A fucking graveyard. That's about it. And honestly, and how are they doing that? Exhuming old graves and stuff for anybody who's looked. No, nobody's paid attention to this grave in a while. Quick, dig it up and resell it. Been doing that shit for a long fucking time, I can tell you. Hypocrite. You caused the problem in the first place. Nothing you now say or do will change your monumental fuck up. But can you really just blame Albo? Like, I mean, there's a huge cohort of useless fuckwits that preceded him. Liberal Labor, scum, and more scum. You know, you pathetic pig. Your response to the opposition leader was typical Anthony Albanese gaslighting rubbish. You've done nothing to reduce fuel prices in this country. Man the fuck up and reduce the fuel excises and your GST theft. And while we're at it, why don't we build a fucking country instead of destroy it, you fucking commie dog? That's just a little bit of, you know, improv, like you're doing with all the taxes you have in place. Right. So nobody's buying this shit. And like, seriously, go and have a look at his own post. Like, unlike other people, say like One Nation and things like that, actually have positive comments. It's just all fuck you, Elbow, you're a liar. I don't understand how. Well, wouldn't you just shut your ex account down at this point? Like, my God. And again, is it absolute blindness to the point that they don't even bother looking at the comments? They don't even bother looking at what the general public is thinking or feeling because they don't care. They're pushing their agenda, their ideas that have been handed down to them from their evil cohorts. Reduce the excise. Keep, you know, except that's not what it does. You're lying again. What's the definition of gouging? Oh, right, taxation. Holding up your little piece of paper like a school kid showing off his award. It's not enough when your government should have had bigger reserves or, you know, perhaps a sense of care for your fellow man. I mean, and this is, again, the suicidal nature of these fucking retards, that they are happy to sell out their friends, their family, their entire country, their fellow countrymen. These people are pure evil. They're happy to fucking destroy the country so they can rule over the ashes. Fuck Elbow and fuck the government. Does that include the government for gouging with excise, fuel excise, drop your BS tax? I mean, it just goes on and on and on. You know, the only reason things have been cutting away is because there's huge friggin' posts and images and shit in between. Like, but seriously, I could not find one positive comment. You know, another fuckwit thing. You know, I actually just managed to capture this at 39 seconds. Never mind the rule of threes there, but anyway, the rule of thirds even. Pun intended. Sure, people. Our top priority is helping Australians with the cost of living. Sure, people. Sure. He's from the word man himself. That's his fucking words. Gotta love a good screenshot, well timed. Anyway, inflation rate. Only Brazil is worse than Australia, apparently, from this particular chart. You gotta wonder what the hell's going on. Switzerland, 0.1%. What are they doing that we're not? Even communist France, communist Singapore. I mean, these are all pretty much communist countries now. Everything's communism, really. It's just, it's just varying different forms of illusionary states because our world is a stage, is it not? Anyway, written by somebody, possibly not Shakespeare, and it got me thinking the other day, I was watching, a TV show, I think it was Stargate, and, I'm watching them destroy things and blow things up as everything happens, America, the good guys, saving peace and justice. What a load of shit. Fuck, it's hard to watch TV when you can really see what's going on. You're like, this is complete and utter Hollywood propaganda. Anyway, it's full of holes, that's for sure. It's like Swiss cheese. So that's where the holy part comes in my perception. But anyway, our top priority is helping Australians with the cost of living. You've got to be shitting me. He is just burying us with every fucking move. And again, that is what the agenda is. You've seen what they've done. We've seen the result. We know it's all planned. So they must want this. You got to remember, step back. Why? Now, things are uncertain. Of course, here he is wasting more paper. Instead of actually fixing things, he's writing stupid little notes on a fucking table so he can get stupid fucking posts up on X to be absolutely shit canned by the Australian people. Your propaganda is not working. Seriously, you're not as charismatic as Hitler. I know you're trying your best, but you're just not. All right. Things are uncertain around the world, and we're responding the Australian way. Really? By looking after people? Really? No, you're not. You're a fucking liar. That is the biggest lie, and you even wrote it down and signed your own lie. What a fuckwit. Of course, people adjusted and fixed that too. I'm a retarded cunt. Nothing says it quite like it. Good morning, Australia. The Prime Minister called you dark forces. Labor MP Patrick Gorman called you rats and rejects. They all call you racists and bigots. I think that's supposed to be they blame you for the fuel crisis. They give immigrants houses whilst Australians go homeless. Well, old mate reckons vote One Nation. I don't know that that's going to really help us, to be honest. I mean, party politics. They have their own little constitutions. They have their own little agreements. They're in their own little pocket universe doing their own little fucking thing, regardless of the constitution or any other fucking laws. At the end of the day, once you join the political party, you become a part of their thought machine, and the group think comes into effect. Of course, why is this relevant? Because, our top priority is helping Australians with the cost of living. Rightio. Yep. Helping Australians by calling us dark forces, helping Australians by calling us rats and rejects. But, why? Because rats are leaving the sinking ship? The reject politicians? Fuck off. Of course, Australia has taken in a record number of migrants in the past year, despite the Albanese government to reduce net figures by almost 50%. Another lie. If Albo's lips are moving, there's nothing but lies coming out. Speaking of wonderful things, there's a few ways of looking at this at the moment. Laos is one country that is only just in a fraction, not even a percentile, just a fraction of a percentile worse than Australia. And everybody seems to be better. Even China's doing better than us. Well, of course they are. They get all our resources, they get the cheap fuel, and then they sell us back shit. But apparently they're stopping that. We'll get to that. But India, nothing. What's India doing? I mean, there seems to be clear-cut cases, examples of around the world from various other countries of how to do things right. But Albo just goes, well, fuck that. What everybody do in the absolute worst way? Let's do that. Sips, ladies and gentlemen. Right. Change in petrol prices. Now, this one is 39%, which is interesting because the other one says 32%. Which one's correct? Times of war. First casualty, the truth. Anyway, but in this case, they're only, you can see they've grabbed relative statistics to demonstrate that, in Western nations, we are by far the worst, Only ones worse than us are, third world nations, really. According to this, it's 23% for America. According to this, it's 16%. What is actually real? That's a good question. I haven't had time to look, but I just thought I'd point out that you can't just trust anything that comes up, But it's not hard to feel that, yep, numbers of days of imports. Yep, we're not doing good. It's all in private hands. Fuck all public. Interesting, isn't it? The needs of the many. Oh, sorry, that's what Spock said. What Elbow says is the needs of me and my friends outweigh the needs of the many. That's the way Elbow sees it. I think he needs to sit down and watch a little bit more Star Trek, get a little bit more onto the original concept of what leftist style politics really meant. But anyway, the word of the day is constipated, dedicated to Anthony Albanese, the Labor government, and pretty much every politician we've ever seen in this country, really. They're all fucking useless. An emotional or spiritual blockage caused by having to deal with too many cunts in one day. Yep, that certainly is the way it is. And speaking of cunts, here's, one of the godfathers of country himself. Accuse your enemy of what you are doing as you are doing it. Create confusion. Now, that is a very important fucking catchphrase because that is what is fucking happening today. As we analyze the propaganda campaign, the flat out fucking lies that we're going to see. Instead of the ashes, I'd rather watch 5 days of One Nation cancelling visas. I don't care which party does it. Just start fucking doing it. Cancelling visas, deportation, sending people we did not ask for to come back. And that's not just from my mouth. From an Aboriginal elder himself told me that. Them people got to go home. It didn't start with gas chambers. Now, of course, we know history is taught to us by the winner. So was there really gas chambers? You got to wonder. I don't know. Can we trust anything we've ever been told? But let's assume for the sake of, this particular meme that it happened. It didn't start with gas chambers. It started with one party controlling the media, one party controlling the message, one party deciding what is truth, one party censoring speech and silencing opposition, one party dividing citizens into us and them and calling on their supporters to harass them. Like you guys are all rats and rejects and, racists and all this other shit. And you can see how this applies, It started when good people turned a blind eye and let it happen. And this is where it comes back on you. And this is where it comes back on everybody. You've got to stop turning a blind eye to this. You got to start calling it out. And anytime somebody says something fucking retarded, like why are people so angry? Wake the fuck up. Even if you pick up a history book, even if it's full of propaganda, you can still draw something from it. It's like the Bible. Even if it's full of shit, you can still find something in it. Milgram authority experiment, Ash conformity experiment, Stanford prison experiment all lead to the COVID policy. What does that fucking mean? Hey, what does that mean? Well, let's have a look, shall we? Let's move in to phase 2 of the operation. While I'm setting that up, here's a little bit of a funny for you.
Let's see. Gonna be about $6,500.
How about $50?
$50? Cost at least $3,000.
Welcome to shitty Australia. Yeah, South Park fans will probably get more of a kick out of that. Anyway. So, what did that diagram mean? Someone put this diagram together and it deserves to be read slowly. 3 of the most disturbing psychological experiments in modern history placed in a Venn diagram with COVID policy sitting precisely in their intersection. That's what we're looking at. We just looked at it. All right. Keep up, people. Come on. Why are you asking these questions? They were not wrong. Most people know the Milgram experiment, ordinary people administrating what they believed were lethal electric shocks to strangers because an authority figure in a white coat told them to continue. Now, this is the very important thing, ladies and gentlemen. When somebody says, you do it because I am an authority, you do this. All right, it's very simple. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O. It's written right in the middle of the alphabet. No. We wrote about this. COVID replicated it at planetary scale. The doctors, the neighbors, the employees, the family members who enforced mandates with a zeal that had nothing to do with science and everything to do with institutional obedience. That woke some people up. Unfortunately, so many of them were just blindly sheepling along. I can't see, blinders. No, I didn't see it, as reported to me by some of the people who were unfortunately had a job as administering this fucking poison. They're watching people drop. People go and complain, and the higher ups say, well, I didn't see it, so it didn't happen. Go back and continue killing people. What the fuck? But the other two are equally important and far less discussed, right? The ash, I think that's how you say it. It looks like ash or hash. I don't know which language are we speaking here. Conformity experiment demonstrated something even more fundamental. Solomon Asch showed in the 1950s that a significant majority of people will deny the evidence of their own eyes, will give an answer they know to be factually wrong simply because everyone else in the room is giving that answer. Usually I'm sitting there going, oh my fucking God, my room's full of fucking retards as usual. Not because they were threatened, not because they were paid, because the social pressure of the group. Oh, I've got to be part of the cool club. Peer group pressure. You remember that crap they used to tell us in fucking primary school? Don't become in the peer group pressure. Don't smoke cigarettes because your friends are. Well, don't fucking kill people because your friends are. Where was that one? No, don't smoke cigarettes. Don't get COVID vaccines. It's the same as don't smoke cigarettes, isn't it? Anyway, not because they were threatened, not because they were paid, because the social pressure of the group was sufficient to override direct sensory experience. This is where your mind and your world is hijacked by groupthink. Fuck me. Political parties, groupthink. This is what masking a healthy population, cancelling Christmas, and demanding that people treat their neighbors as biological threats actually accomplished. It was not about any of those things specifically. It was about training an entire population to override their own perception and defer to the group consensus. However absurd that consensus became. And of course, this is what we're looking forward to. They're doing this shit again, you know. Philip Zimbardo's 1971 study, abandoned early because it spiraled so rapidly out of control, showed that ordinary people assigned roles of authority over other ordinary people will, within days, begin to abuse that authority in ways they would have never in ways they would have found unthinkable before the role was assigned. Police, military, politicians, counselors. It's amazing how quick a person can turn. It is. I've seen it happen too many fucking times. And it's still amazing. It still catches you every time. You're like, but what the fuck? Do you have a mind of your own? Clearly not. The guards became cruel, not because they were cruel people, but because the structure gave them permission and the institution backed them up. Have a look at our fucking world. Can you seriously think about this and apply it to just about every level of our society? Everybody's fucking doing it. Think about it. You know, the lawyers are doing it. They don't give a shit about you. The bankers are doing it. They don't give a shit about you. All the employees continue to do it because, well, I need a job. I'm just doing my job. I was just doing my job. It was never an excuse during the Nuremberg trials, but it seems to be still an excuse for everyday fucking citizens. Does my fucking head in. Oh, hang on. Oh, Jesus. The COVID marshals, the border agents turning families away, the hospital administrators just barring visitors from dying patients, the teachers reporting parents, you know, dobbing in your neighbor. Orwellian, isn't it? The neighbors calling police on children playing in parks, the HR departments gleefully processing terminations for the unvaccinated. How brainwashed. Ordinary people handed a role and a uniform of institutional approval, discovering capacities for cruelty that their pre-2020 selves would not have recognized. Are you sure? Go back to prior to that and you think people were still turning a blind eye, and they still are now. Now go deeper, because the institution at the center of this, the one that has connected these threads across decades, is not an accident of history. Stanford sites at an intersection of centralized medicine, defense research, and surveillance architecture that has been constructed around human attention and behavior for the better part of a century. The Stanford Research Institution, the connections to MK Ultra, the CIA's mind control program that ran from the early 1950s and included everything from Mexican mescaline experiments to weaponization of LSD on unwitting subjects, overseen by figures who moved seamlessly between military intelligence and the medical establishment. Fuck me. You think it was a sci-fi novel, except it's fucking reality. Where do you think all these books and ideas and movies and shit come from? These people are not that creative. They're simply propagandizing reality. From General Groves, who oversaw the Manhattan Project and the deliberate suppression of radiation health data, and Sidney Gottlieb, I think that's it, the CIA chemist who ran MK Ultra's most extreme programs. The through line is not conspiracy. It is institutional continuity. And that's what all this is about. What the war, everything that's happening is making sure the institution maintains itself, and they will do anything, including kill you, to maintain this power. The same networks, the same funding streams, the same willingness to use human beings as experimental subjects in the service of power dressed as science. Well, it says it all, and many people, have their various opinions. We can have a look, but let's keep moving. I spent enough time on that. Let's get into the rest of this shit. All right. So Gina Rinehart's controversial solution to housing crisis. Really simple. Stop taxing everyone to fucking death. Is that going to fucking happen? Fuck no. This is a communist fucking regime. How does communism work? Taxation to starvation. And we're about to see it on a global level. Australia's richest woman has criticized the $300 handout in the budget. Is it 300? Is that right? It can't be right. 300 energy rebates if they own more than one home. Billionaires will be able to claim multiple $300 energy rebates. Yep. See who they're looking after? Of course, it's Pauline Hanson and her billionaire mate, fucking Gina Reinhart, that's, handing out for the billionaires, right? For energy prices, regardless of household income, warning that the big spending budget is not the best way forward. She's obviously said, cut fuel excise and stop the flood of new migrants to tackle the housing crisis. It's pretty simple shit. Well, I mean, do we need to hear it from Gina Reinhart? Because everybody else has been fucking saying it. It's pretty bloody obvious, Of course, what's these handouts do? Robbing Peter to pay Peter. That's what they're doing. They didn't even hand it to fucking Paul. Anyway, we did that. Pauline Hanson again pointing out how fucking, backstabbing and dubious the Labor government. Can you believe the government is profiting $300 million? There's that $300 again a month from the spike in fuel prices while you're struggling. Yeah, who's reaping the rewards here? It's the Labor government, of course. As the pain at the pump increases, so does government's GST take on every litre. Yeah, good old percentage taxation. SIPs. We need to cut fuel excise to give Australians immediate relief. Minister, fuckwit is a better term, Chris Bowen, needs to declare a fuel emergency so we can force supplies to the regions who are growing food and stop price gouging again. Now, isn't it interesting? We cut the supply lines. Remember I was saying military strategy, supply. That's the first, that's what you got to take out. And that's what they've done. Our own people have done this. Our alleged friends in Israel who... This is Israel's war. This is Netanyahu's, Yahoo Serious himself award here. His war. Keep saying that people, Labor keep trying to say it's Trump's war. Well, Trump may have been stupid enough to go along with it, or was he a complicit? That remains to be seen. We'll find out, one or the other. Either he's a complete fucking idiot and had no idea how much he's about to get railroaded, didn't see it coming because he actually thought these fuckwits were his friends, or he's complicit. I can't see a third option. If there's another one, please let me know. What do you think? We've got to start a comment. Batty, did you see Albo pig dance song today? No, I didn't. Do you want to send that to me via email, buddy? You should know it by now. NQ Freedom Network at protonmail.com. So there, that's. I'll just kill that. Anyway, where am I? So apparently, Treasury denies government profits from fuel tax as GST windfalls hits 300 million. Interesting. Yeah, Pauline Hanson says it's disgraceful. Of course, she just told us that. Yeah. Petrol up by more than 80 cents a litre. Now, they've been trying to push that petrol price for quite some time. They tried it during COVID 1984, but it didn't work. Funnily enough, petrol went down during COVID 1984. With petrol up by more than 80 cents a litre since the Iran conflict started wreaking havoc on the Iran conflict. Let's call it the Israel conflict. Let's get it right. You know, the Iran are the victim here. They've been attacked. Who started the fucking war? Israel. The 10% goods and services tax is collecting an additional 7 cents per litre. That's more than the 4 cents tank for a mid-sized car. And why is 4 important? Because you get a 4-cent rebate with your, supporting of capitalistic bullshit from Coles and Woolworths. Everyone's furious, not just you, Miss Hanson. It's ridiculous. It's fucking retarded, and we've had enough. Anyway, let's move on. Do as I say, not as I do. How Albo has splurged 25,000 litres of fuel for the Rabbitohs, and we've seen how well he was received there. AFL and Queen Mary, while Chris Bowen urges drivers not to use more fuel than you need. I don't know about you, but I don't fucking go down to the servo, fill up jerry cans to pour it on a fucking bonfire. Does anybody buy fuel that they don't need? I mean, the shit goes off. It's got a fucking use by date. What a retarded statement. Only someone as fucking useless as Chris Bowen could say something so fucking dumb. Of course we need it. I wouldn't have bought it if I didn't need it, you fucking retard. What a maggot. EU sheep meat and beef across lifted in worst ever agreement. Well, I mean, this fuckwit just doesn't get any worse, does he? Sheep and goat meat access into the European Union has been increased. How? We've got no fuel to get to the farmers, you fucking retards. Like, what is this? But well below industry expectations in what is being described as the worst ever free trade agreement for Australia's red meat sector. This guy is an absolute toss bag. Chair of the Australian EU Red Meat, and of course, fucking bragging, on X and various other places. Oh, look, we've got the dictator from the EU here, all you fucking communist dog muppets who don't serve any of the people, only you disgusting, ball-worshipping Satan pedo scum suckers. Chair of the Australia EU Red Meat Market Access Task Force, Andrew McDonald, said the sector has been profoundly let down by the outcome. Sorry, I got distracted there. What I was actually trying to say about them, bragging about it, is nobody was buying that shit either. Just like every time he says, nobody buys it. Described by the industry group as the worst ever free trade agreement for Australian red meat industry to date. The Australian red meat industry has been crystal clear that FTA negotiations were the ideal mechanism to finally address the EU's punitive and highly discriminatory import regime. Yet the agreement delivers just 30,600 tons carcass weight of beef access over the next 10 years, when a minimum 50,000 tons was required simply to be in line with what the EU has offered our competitors. On sheep meat and goat meat, the result is equally disappointing, 25,000 tonnes or 7 years, despite Australian industry requiring a minimum of 67,000. This stands in stark contrast to New Zealand's access to 163,000 tonnes, which is an outrageous discrepancy. To land a deal so far below what other suppliers have secured is genuinely bewildering. Well, of course, we can't supply them because we've got no fuel. We can't get to the farmers. You can see what's happening here. Destroy the fuel, can't move. Destroy the farms, can't eat. Now, have you ever heard of kosher? Ever heard of, what was the halal, food control? like I said last week, you put the food on the dog's nose and train the dog really well to just stare at it on the end of its nose. And when master says it's okay, you can eat. Well, you didn't conform to the religious castration of your food supply, so we're going to impose it. Welcome to the future. But why is this all happening? You know, I was looking through the Dick Yardley book earlier, yesterday, I think it was, and this little gem sort of popped up. The whole thing's probably full of gems. I haven't got through reading it all yet, but we discussed it on previous podcasts. If you don't know, go back and look. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Keith Charles, one with Keith Charles in it. It has been widely reported that Kim Beazley MP, whilst representing a political party, you know, not the Australian people, the political party in Australia, has a purported, I like that word, purported, look it up if you don't know, elected member of the Parliament of Australia and as a cabinet minister of the government of Australia. Notice there's no Commonwealth in these words. And as the deputy prime minister of Australia, not the Commonwealth. From 1995 to 1996, said the United Nations has given the federal government a mandate of ownership for housing, property, farms, and businesses to government control once the republic has been proclaimed. Well, they've been unable to get the republic proclaimed, but they're doing it anyway. So at the end of the day, buying a house is receiving stolen goods, it would seem. Buying property, farms, businesses is receiving stolen goods because the government's stolen it and then now they're selling it back. Welcome to communism. The above quote of what Kim Beazley has reportedly said correlates with his political party's ALP national constitution. Remember, I was talking about these things earlier. Keep up, people. As adapted the 26th of July 2015, for example, at Part B, Objectives and Principles. Objectives under Section 5, to achieve the political and social values of equality, democracy, liberty, and social cohesion inherent in this objective, the Australian Labor Party stands for reform. Now, see, this is where the complete contradiction comes in. Reform of the Australian Constitution. We've got to get rid of the fucking Constitution. This fucking thing's tying us up and stopping us from being complete communist fuckwits. And other political institutions to ensure, you know, other people are not getting on board with communism, to ensure that they reflect the will of the majority of Australian citizens, which is another term for slave, and the existence of Australia as an independent republic. Australia as an independent republic. No, yeah. What, like the USSR? There was a republic too, wasn't it? However, Australian citizens were abstract entities created by members of political parties, each under their own party's constitution and policies, under their private Australian Citizenship Act of 1973. Gough Whitlam. Now you see that fucking dirty grub. Unfortunately, he can't be hung. The fucker's already dead. You know, number 99 of the 17th of December 1973, and have been paid in fiat counterfeit money, the Australian dollars, which are only, monopoly money is another good term for it, only a medium of exchange of Australia, not the Commonwealth of Australia, with no head of power, no crown of constitutional authority, and which therefore are not legal tender of the Commonwealth of Australia. I mean, you can get this stuff and get onto it, many, many more. If you need a copy, just let me know. I can't remember the exact website off the top of my head. Anyway, you get the fucking point. Labor don't work for you. Just like I said last week, the government doesn't work for you. Here's the fucking proof. They don't care. They only care about their political ideology, which has been handed to them by the socialist endeavors of the Fabian Society and various other communist scumbags like Karl Marx and the such. Anyway, how are they going to continue to manifest this communist desire? Chinese fuel bound for Australian port fails to load amid supply fears. That's right. When you want to impose communism, you get your communist mates to help you. Fuel bound for Australia failed to load at Chinese ports at the weekend. It failed, did it? I mean, the fuel bound for Australia failed to load. I didn't realize fuel loaded itself. Fucking hilarious, isn't it? Oh, you got to think of the way they control these things, and they control the words. Like, I mean, that's shitty journalism, or are they trying to make a fucking joke here? The first time that a shipment had been missed since the outbreak of a conflict in Middle East that has set global energy markets on edge and created serious worries. Of course, that has. That there could be domestic shortages within weeks. Within weeks, it's already fucking happening. Like, it's been happening for weeks. At least one of 2 cargoes that were due to load in China on the 14th of March, bound for Australia to supply Ampol, were missed, and the tanker Yasa Lion instead sailed to South Korea to pick up diesel, according to market sources following tanker movements, who were not authorized to speak publicly. They're not allowed to talk. And this is where we hide things behind the corporate entity. Now, when it's a government entity, you get freedom of information requests and all that sort of stuff. But as soon as it's inside the corporate, we can hide it. That's trade secret. We're happy to talk about it, with you, but you'll have to sign a non-disclosure agreement so we can sue you if you're trying to fuck with us. Anyway, don't let the people know. That's the important thing. Gatekeepers of information everywhere. The second ship, STI Broadway, was also due to load in China. This time, the ship itself seems to be loading itself. Is on its way to Singapore, but is unclear whether it will reach Australia with fuel. The 3 weeks long conflict. 3 weeks, eh? Wasn't it supposed to be a couple of days, between Iran, Israel, and the United States? Why is Iran first? No, Israel should be first. They're the instigators. But anyway, that projection thing we're talking about with Karl Marx? Anyway, so we see where it's all going. We don't really need to go any further. China move could dome Aussie flights as jet fuel shipments drop to 0. Now, what was one of the agendas that they have for 2030 and all these other fucking vile demonic concepts? Other than you'll own nothing and be happy. We've already addressed that with fucking the Labor's plan back in the 70s. They've been working on this for decades to fuck the country. But the other element is that you can't travel. You need to be locked down in your little smart city and not go anywhere, and not talk to anyone, so you can't see perhaps if a rebellion breaks out somewhere else, because we need everything compartmentalized and controlled. That is a very important thing, and we're going to go and show you how that comes from the Bible, how this has been handed down by evil for a long fucking time. This what we're seeing is nothing new. It's been going on for thousands and thousands of fucking years. But anyway, it's just a different playground. It's not even a different playground. Like, seriously, I've been saying this for decades myself now, that very little has changed since the days of ancient Egypt. It's the same fucking power structures. It's the same bullshit. They just changed names and moved things around. But anyway, they don't want you going anywhere. They don't want you traveling. It's only Airbus elbow. Fuckwits like this and various other fuckwits, with shitloads of money, who are allowed. The chosen ones are allowed to travel, not you. Australia's biggest jet fuel supplier appears to have cut us off, with no shipments scheduled for next month, as Aussies are slapped with cancelled flights and higher ticket prices. Now, the solution might be a really quick one. Not only can they not supply, and this is going to be pretty hard for a lot of people to swallow, but stop buying it and watch them change their tune. Seriously, we are the consumers. We have the power here. We can change this really quickly. Stop buying. Everybody just stay home, go nowhere, buy only what you need. Don't do anything. Fuck going to the footy. Fuck, cancel all your memberships to Netflix and all that shit. No more traveling. Fine. Give them what they want. Shut society down for them and watch it collapse. They'll change your tune, I reckon. Unless, of course, that's the trap. I don't know. It's worth a try. New cash law 2026. Shops must accept cash. Right now, this is a tricky one. It looks at face value like they're trying to, we've got to make sure they accept cash. But one thing really triggered to me, outside of the typical, well, we need cash because old people can't do things. And, it's fundamentally, what the key points are. Businesses must accept cash for essential purchases. But this is the key, applies to transitions typically under $500. Now, this is what they fucking wanted to do in the original cash ban prior to COVID 1984. for, and you can see every opportunity to push these fucking things comes back, where, they wanted to suspend for under $10,000. Now it's under $500. Interesting. Oh, but we're putting it in to protect you. Are they? Or are they setting the stage to make it even worse than it was the last time? Think about what they want to achieve here. They're doing it. And they're, again, selling it to you in a manner that, oh, we're protecting you, They want to focus on goods and services like food, fuel, and basic needs, not buying a car. You could have bought a car under $10,000 with cash, mind you. That $10,000 when they meant to imply that, back, prior to COVID 1984, I think it was 2019, perhaps, or somewhere thereabouts there. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I'm drawing, but I know it's prior to COVID. You could buy a car for $9,999 with cash. No worries. Can't now. Not under this one. They're not protecting that. Notice how they've shifted the goalposts, but still selling you something that they want. And COVID 1984 allowed them to get what they fucking wanted by putting this cashless only shit. Of course, you know what? I'll just bring the video in because, it's easier. It gives my jaw a bit of a rest, Apparently I can talk underwater. Well, I'm going to have to try and talk under beer. That's the important one right now. So anyway, let's get back. Where is that video? Not there. I did have the video. Where's it gone? Oh, no. Saved to the wrong fucking folder, no doubt. All right, well, here's another one we can bloody do. This will work. Well, for a second, while I have it.
The place where racists call you racist. The place where your children can get indoctrinated for free. The country where planes spray hazardous chemicals over your family and your friends. But if you dare mention the word chemtrail, you'll be branded as a nutjob and ridiculed, even though you can literally go on the Australian government website and they'll tell you they're doing it. Australia, the place where you can commit a terrorist attack and it's not your fault. The place where if you don't go along with the WEF's Agenda 2032 and buy an electric car, you get charged $3 a litre. Forget buying a house in this great country. Who needs one when you can rent one off a billionaire for triple the price? And yes, the country of great culture, where the government forgets the actual people who are indigenous to these lands and focuses more on immigrating thousands of people into this amazing country so they can win the next election. The country where globalists from the World Economic Forum fund your children's university education and turn them into radical religious Antifa members, and ironically enough, train them to hate the rich. The country of clean white sand beaches that are now covered in trash. The country where you can illegally dump your rubbish into nature reserves, and if anyone says anything, just call them a racist and you've got yourself a golden ticket. The country of great globalist controlled politicians that are so good at lying and gaslighting that you end up feeling sorry for them. The beautiful culture of automatically being tagged a far-right Nazi or KKK member for just being a bloke with a job. The land of opportunity where you can work a 60-hour week and give half your money to a family with 6 NDIS businesses. But it doesn't stop there. How about settling down after that long day from walking to Centrelink to get your dole money, turning on the TV to be indoctrinated by the ESG system controlled by, you guessed it, the globalists from the EU and WEF in Davos, feeding you absolute propaganda so you're a good little goldfish for when your globalist controlled government bring in digital ID, digital currency and smart cities, aka your own digital prison. This is Australia, people.
Wow, another example of people waking up and figuring out the basics. Look, honestly, I had a video there. I don't know where the hell it's bloody gone. I know I saved it somewhere, but it seems to have disappeared. Anyway, not meant to be as a yes, but anyway, the fundamental principle of it all, is that businesses might have to incur the cost of dealing with cash. Like cash is somehow a cost. We've fucking been using it for thousands of fucking years, at least hundreds. Why is it all of a sudden a cost? Like people actually want cash because the cost of the electronic system is more, but you have to have it because everybody's using it, because everybody's that fucking stupid. You're getting charged, they're getting charged. The banks are the only ones who fucking win here. So of course cash is king, you know, like why wouldn't we want to be using it, you know? Anyway, moving quite along. Every Australian needs to watch this, apparently. So I had it here so that I could bring it in. Let's so we did that one, remove that, add this one in, which is, you know, of course, another one of the big friggin' problems here is well, I've done it again, haven't I? All right, remove that. Where'd that video go? There it is.
The Australian Bureau of Statistics confirms Australia is on track for net overseas migration, or NOM, of more than 300,000 people this financial year. That's the fourth consecutive year that this 300,000 figure has been exceeded. This is despite promises from the Albanese government that they would bring immigration down. They are doing nothing, and they've lied to us again. An Institute of Public Affairs analysis of the new ABS data shows that this January we had the highest number of net arrivals on record at 57,270. Net arrivals is just the raw number of everybody coming into the country. So it has to be adjusted with departures to get the NOM figure later. But it is an indicator of trends. It's still a valid figure. Now, this chart shows
a lot of people who can afford to are going, this country's fucked, I'm going elsewhere. Not everybody has that availability, which is really frustrating, you know. But the thing is, as Primus pointed out a long time ago, tragedies are coming. We cannot step aside. Tragedies are coming. There's no place to run and hide, you know. So, I mean, jumping ship and leaving Australia isn't going to help, because what's happening here is going to happen elsewhere eventually. You know, we have a global pandemic of evil. And the global pandemic of evil needs to be dealt with in every country. We need good people who are intelligent enough to see what's happening and get their shit together and fight back, not tuck tail and run.
Is the number coming in every January since 2017. So you can see that the trend is very clearly up. The latest NOM figures we have cover the quarter from July to September 2025, the first quarter of this financial year. And it was 87,821 for the quarter. That's 6,000 more than the same quarter of 2024. So once again, it's higher, not lower, as Mr. Albanese and Mr. Burke promised. At this rate, the NOM for this year is going to be more than 350,000 people. That's 1.25% we're adding to the Australian population. The IPA says that for context,
that's a shitload. That's insane, you know, like 300, you know, those numbers going into a country of 250 billion, 300 million or whatever, you know, it is a drop in the ocean. For a country with fuck all population for Australia, that is insane.
Next, the September 2025 quarterly intake was almost 4 times the average number of people we'd take in a quarter back between the Second World War and the end of the Howard government in 2007. In other social cohesion news, the proportion of Australian residents born overseas will soon be more than a third of the population. Pointing this out is not racism, it's patriotism, because what we're doing is committing cultural suicide, and it simply must stop. At the 2021 census, approximately 40% of Greater Sydney and Greater Melbourne's population was born overseas. That is objectively not healthy or sustainable for any country. It's outrageous what the elites have done to this nation without our consent or approval. And if it doesn't stop, I fear there'll be serious cultural unrest like we've never seen before. The left wing of politics in this country, Labor and the Greens and the Teals and the Liberal Party left, need a wake-up call and quick bloody smart. We have a cohort of young men in this country on the brink of radicalisation to some pretty dark and ugly stuff that you're not going to be able to control with Little Miss E. Karen and your lunatic censorship laws. Islamophobia and anti-Semitism will look like cute playground insults soon if you don't pull your heads out of your backsides and start listening to the young people in this country, particularly young Australian-born men who can't get a job, can't get ahead, and can't buy a house and raise a family. Wake up.
I wonder why people aren't having children. It's all by design, ladies and gentlemen. This is all by design. They want this. They're happy about it. These little grubs are having parties and thinking, patting themselves on the back for the amazing work that they're doing. Speaking of an amazing work, and we're talking about cutting supply lines and whatnot, here's another wonderful example.
Burn a perfectly healthy, strong hive.
Another wonderful example of what's happening in New Zealand, and will no doubt be coming to our shores in a similar fashion.
New Zealand, we've been told to burn a perfectly healthy, strong hive. Look at that. Beautiful hives. They're even starting to create new queens in these hives. So everything's going well with this beehive. We've been told to burn healthy, strong hives because Marco Gonzalez from MPI is telling us that this site is abandoned. Actually, I think he just wants the bee site for all himself. Have no disease. Look at him. Look at him. Look at how strong and healthy these bees are. No disease. Nothing. These are perfectly strong hives. Last week, my staff told me to actually start bringing boxes here. So I got told to bring boxes here. And I got an email from Marco Gonzalez to burn the beehives because they were abandoned. I can tell you right now, look at here. Look here, look here, brand new treatment, perfect, healthy treatment. If you're a beekeeper, you'll know that that's actually perfectly healthy treatment. And this has been recently worked. When I mean by recently, I mean weeks ago. Even an AP2 officer actually told me, actually this site is a perfectly healthy site and it's great, ready for splitting.
Ends abruptly, unfortunately, but you get the fucking basic idea. You know, it's the war on food, the war on fuel to control. Yeah, you didn't want to join. You didn't want to join the right. You didn't want to join the right cult. You know, so you know, we'll impose it upon you.
She says, "Oh no, we're sweet. We got enough fuel. We got enough supply. Yet you've got an energy minister who stands at the dispatch box and says, "Oh no, we're sweet. We got enough fuel. We got enough supply. We're sweet." Garbage. That's bull, Prime Minister. It is.
My heart's thumping making this phone call. Honestly, I'm really emotional at the moment, and I know I'm not just speaking for myself. I know I'm speaking for so many people who are suffering at the moment, and my plea is to Anthony Albanese. What are you doing? I've recently spent $1,500 moving my kids and I'm a single mum, to a cheaper place in Sydney to save $175 a week, only for that money not to go in my pocket at all. It's going on these ridiculous fuel prices, the cost of groceries, cost of electricity. I mean, I've lived in...
So I just wanted to bring Trish Wildfire's comment in here. We already destroyed beehives. So there you go. I missed that one. Thank you, Trish. So there you are. We're already destroying our own fucking supply here. It's madness, you know. And obviously one of the things, you know, we're going to have to start doing is obviously getting rid of the market system. And, you know, farmers need to start selling directly to the public and cutting out the horrendous amount of middlemen. You know, food is what we should be worried about. Fuck the footy. Fuck entertainment, fuck Netflix, fuck all this other useless shit that is designed to distract you and keep your mind enslaved. Focus on what we need. We need to start rebuilding this nation because it's already been destroyed.
Survival mode, you know, since my divorce 10 years ago.
And this is exactly it. You know, here's a poor woman who, you know, divorced, destroy the family unit. That's what communism is all about. That's what Labor Party has done with the help of Centrelink, you know, and various other horrific family-oriented things. You know, they've destroyed it, our families, by warping our perception of what is right and wrong. But let's have a look at, you know, some more of the reality of the Labor government.
Survival mode, you know, since my divorce 10 years ago. And I'm highly educated. I'm highly skilled. I can't even get anyone to give me any work from home. I've got to work from home. I've got a chronic illness.
I think everybody can hear how distraught and upset you are. Just take a big, deep breath for me because we're all in this together, okay?
Yeah.
But how does
We're all in this together. You got a job.
it make you feel as a tax-paying Australian, okay, as a single mum with a couple of beautiful kids?
And there's the thing, tax-paying Australian, as if it's some sort of a fucking privilege. No, that's a fucking detriment. That's a key to slavery. You are a fucking slave. Taxation shows you are a slave.
When you turn on the telly at night and you see people like Chris Bowen and Anthony Albanese saying, "Oh, we got enough fuel, we're going to be fine," but all the while you're having to pay an exorbitant amount of money just to put petrol in the car.
Oh, it's just...
And food on the table, and pay the fucking bills so we can pay for, you know, Chris Bowen's fucking blackout campaign.
Just a joke. It really is. I mean, I had to drive my kids to their sports carnival today, and I was just panicking, you know, driving past 5 different fuel stations with no fuel, thinking, well, what do I do?
Are you listening, Prime Minister? Angus Taylor, are you listening? You turn on the TV, you watch Question Time, and they're at each other. They're arguing over nothing. They're the real Australians, Prime Minister, who are hurting. Yet you've got an energy minister who stands at the dispatch box and says, "Oh no, we're sweet, we got enough fuel, we got enough supply, we're sweet." Garbage. That's bullshit, Prime Minister. It is. And I'm sorry to use that language, but it's just heartbreaking to hear listeners like Anna who can't live their day-to-day lives through the inaction of this insipid Labor government.
We can continue to listen to him rant, but you're not here to listen to him rant. You're here to listen to me rant. But he's right. Fuck Labor. Fuck the government. This shit has to end. And we need to stop just screaming. We need to start getting action happen again, ladies and gentlemen. We all got together and fucking fought against the convid shit. Well, I propose that we start getting together and fighting against this shit right now before it gets any worse. You know where this is going. We know what's going to happen. And we can't let this continue to happen. The problem with the Grand Awakening last time wasn't big enough. It wasn't effective enough. It wasn't well thought out enough. And the same crooks are still in power. In fact, we've got worse ones, possibly. You know, every time we get rid of one, they put one in that's even worse. You know, they are the chosen. After all, if you're not chosen, you'll get the smear campaign like we've seen with Troy Thompson. See how much they Townsville Council demonstrated what happens when you are not the right kind of puppet willing to sell out your fellow man. They showed us, you know. Go and ask the current council. I bet you they'll fucking cower and hide. They'll run. They're fucking all puppets. If they are in a position of power in this country right here, right now, they are a puppet. It's that fucking simple. I wouldn't trust any of them. They're all fucking scum. Every last one of them. They do not give a shit about you. They continuously increase the cost of everything, you know. I mean, speaking of increase of costs, actually, this is probably a good time to insert this little one, this little gem. Of course, here we are moving towards Easter, also known as Passover for certain other heathenistic religions. Let's face it, as far as I'm concerned, they're all heathens, but that's my perception, you know. And, you know, nothing more heathenistic than the astounding way in which we've commercialized the religion here in Western nations, otherwise known as Catholicism and Christianity, and there's various 100,000 fucking different versions of the same friggin' thing, you know. But you'll notice there's certain logos, and you'll notice that a certain crew of evil, corrupt Baal worshippers own a lot of these companies and don't care.
Want proof the Easter Bunny's not inflation proof? Take a look at the price of chocolate. A simple block has more than doubled in 2 years. But what if there was a way to make it cheaper?
Chocolate and the phrase hard to swallow shouldn't go together. But when you look at the price, it's enough to make you sick.
2024 comes along and suddenly prices go 4 times their historical average.
So how did our favourite staple get so far out of reach?
How much trouble am I going to get in if my head goes under that?
Ooh. It starts here. As we get slugged nearly $10 a block, could this be Australia's golden ticket? Farmers up here in North Queensland are asking, why aren't we making more of our own chocolate?
If we're at Charlie's Chocolate Factory, that must make you Willy Wonka when it comes to producing chocolate here in Australia.
Oh, be careful. No, there's no gold tickets here and no Oompa Loompas.
Just a lot of pure imagination and hard work. Started in 2012 and now runs Australia's biggest cocoa farm.
What got you into chocolate?
Look, a lot of people do ask that. Essentially, it was a business decision, and I thought, well, hey, we can do this here. We can.
Thing that has been Thank you for doing that. That has been destroyed. I've got books, various, Aztec, Mayan. Not that they were fucking wonderful bunch of people. I talk about another satanic cult of fucking demonic worship. People cutting people's hearts out and throwing children into fucking pits and all sorts of disgusting shit. Like, the more I look at the history of this fucking planet, the more I think, fuck, what a sick fuck place. This planet is like, it is insane. The shit that people have allowed to happen for thousands of years all over the place in various different ideologies in name of the gods. It's amazing how many people we can kill in the name of, isn't it? Rage Against the Machine, killing in the name of, although focused on, Zach Dollarocca's personal fucking hatred of white people because he was, of Native American descent, is just capturing one element of it. But at the end of the day, when you look at, particularly the South American element, those, Aztecs and Mayan and the sick shit those people were doing, I'm sorry, but your culture wasn't really worth saving in that regard. Maybe the more Northern American fucking Indian tribes seem a little bit nicer, than the South American ones, that's for sure. But, the bigger the empire, suddenly you start building cities and fucking worshipping gods and all this shit. In comes the sacrifice, in comes the murder, in comes the war, in comes the pain, the greed, and it's all justified by your wonderful authority. But yes, tobacco was where I was going with that rant. Another sacred ceremonial herb, now a addictive carcinogen, marijuana, another thing that was absolutely fine. There was nothing wrong with it other than black people were going down to jazz clubs in America and having a good time, and them young white girls were going down and partaking in a little bit of ceremonial herb, which has health benefits, now being sold as a medical product here in Australia, for 100 years has been demonized. Why? Because politicians didn't like it. No real reason. They invented complete bullshit, and now we've altered, enhanced, created all these weird ass fucking strains. What's good for you? What's not? Can you even trust the government to supply it for you? I don't fucking know. At the end of the day, nothing seems to make sense. And one thing's for sure, anything that's good in this world seems to be demonized pretty fucking quickly.
Grow a premium cocoa and turn it into a premium chocolate. And
at the end of the day, who doesn't love chocolate?
Well, yeah, chocolate's one of those things you don't have to explain it to people.
I can't believe my Kit Kat starts that small.
Yeah, well, it does.
Chris's business has blossomed, but his cocoa farm near Mission Beach in far north Queensland is barely a blip in the world of chocolate.
The world uses 5 million tonnes of cocoa a year. West Africa dominates cocoa production.
How many cocoa farmers have we got, roughly?
In Australia, that many.
Oh, wow.
Really, it's that small.
And maybe that was fine until recently. The cocoa market cracked. Weather, disease and volatility in Africa left the main ingredient in our chocolate at critical levels. Great for Australia's business owners, not so for our pockets.
Now, would you say this is the most we've ever talked about cocoa in Australia?
I think so, yeah. It seems to be on everybody's lips.
We hadn't seen anything like this before this. It's completely unprecedented.
This is where the price used to be, and that's how bad it got.
It started around about $3,000 per tonne and went up to all the way to about 12,000.
The EU declaring chocolate the most inflated food. The chocolate gods had responded.
Number one is raising prices. No one likes to see that. Number two is making the chocolate bar smaller.
Shrinkflation. The owner of Cadbury posted a quarterly profit in February of $665 million. It was $1.75 billion 1 year earlier. Back to that graph, you'd notice cocoa's price has dropped again. But what hasn't changed?
Everyone wants to know what will happen in terms of prices at Easter. I'd probably say look at Christmas in terms of when you can expect those decreases.
But Rabobank's commodity analyst.
So, in other words, they've got an opportunity to make a buck at your expense, so they fucking will.
Paul Jules says even then,
Definitely could happen again.
I bet you Mr. Cadbury doesn't have one of those.
No.
Chris says cocoa plants think it's Christmas up here.
This is actually perfect conditions for cocoa. We find it a bit muddy, but cocoa loves this.
So the conditions are perfect. Why haven't we got farms everywhere?
I think people have just got to catch on to the fact that this really, really, really works.
While labour costs will never put an Australian industry on level footing with Africa, a bigger industry can make an impact.
Labour costs, of course. That's why we want to turn Australia into a communist third world nation, so we can compete on that level. It's all about equaling the playing field. It's not about bringing third world nations up. It's about bringing us down.
There you go. How about that?
$30 an hour, or?
Yeah. And each one of those is going to make a chocolate bar about $12 to $14.
Do you reckon we could get it cheaper one day?
Yeah, we might. If we grow enough of this stuff, we will, yeah, exactly.
What would you say to the government to try and make that happen?
Send money? No, all jokes.
Does it also grow on trees?
Yeah, it does.
Australia Cocoa has already started growing new trees, and they're now seeking $20 million worth of investment to buy up farming land and spread the joy.
So this is where the magic happens?
Certainly is. Go in.
What the fuck's going on here? You stupid bloody thing. All right. So, yeah, you get the general idea. Your religious practice, if you're still caught up in this Christian Catholic facade, wow. Have a look at who owns Cadbury. Just have a look. I'm not going to say anything. You can figure it out for yourself. But, they are one of them money-loving and greedy little fuckers. The kind of people that I believe Jesus kicked the table on over. You can correct the sentence. You know what I mean. Anyway, speaking of ridiculous religion, Sarah Mullally celebrated as the Church of England's first female leader in photos. I don't know. You tell me. I don't give a shit about religion myself. Personally, I see it as little more than the gatekeepers between you and whatever the hell is actually going on. The most important thing is that you've got somebody else reading things for you. That's why you're watching this, right? You need somebody else to read it for you. There's too many people who just want to watch the video. They don't want to read. They don't want to learn. They don't want to know. They want the quick and easy path, which will lead you to the dark side. Anyway, is a female leader in the Church of England a good idea or a bad idea? Personally, I don't see the difference. Whether you're having one gatekeeper as a woman, whether it's a fucking queer, whether it's a transvestite, a gatekeeper is a gatekeeper. That is somebody who's preventing me from passing from one point to the other and pretending that they have some sort of power that you don't. What a lie. What, because you got a stupid fucking hat on, which is fundamentally a fish head when you really do it. Look into these things and realize what it is. It's a fish head. They're worshipping the entities that came out of the ocean. Really think about these things. I'll get into that another day, I promise. Anyway, you get that's the gateway. That's the seed planted. Think about the fish head, because look at it. It's a fish mouth on top of the head. That's where we're going. It's Neptunian. Anyway, amongst many other things. But Sarah Mullally has been formally installed, and I love that word. She's been installed, chosen one, as Archbishop of Canterbury, marking the start of her public ministry as the first woman to lead the Church of England. She will serve as a spiritual head with a fish head on her head of a global Anglican communion. Sounds a little like communism to me. A network of independent churches with more than 100 million members. The church ordained the first female priests in 1994 and its first female bishop 2015. So 94, 15, 26. Can you see the pattern? Interesting. 4, 5, 6. They love playing these games, don't they? It's so observable. It's so in your face. It's so easy to see when you pull your head out of your ass, take the fish head off of yours, get your head out of that fish bucket, wake the fuck up. Anyway, it's just more manipulation. Speaking of manipulation, outrageous serial rapist receives lavish 220,000 NDIS funding package. Yep. Controversial influencer slams NDIS over 220K funding for serial rapist. High profile conservative commentary Big Chocky has expressed fury following Daily Mail revelations that a serial rapist deemed a high risk to women and children, exactly the kind of people that religion loves, has been granted a substantial national disability insurance scam. Oh, scheme, sorry. Get them S's mixed up. See, I really am struggling. Funding package worth of $220,000 annually. Can I have some of that? I got a fucking serious disability. Fucking, the system itself has declared it so. Not me. I didn't say it. They did. The pain is telling me, but that's another story. Wayne Milmott, age 53, was involved in a 1988 kidnapping, rape, and murder of Sydney bank teller Janine Balding. So it doesn't matter if you work for, another Kabbalah agency. You're still subject to these things, and has a decades-long history of sexual violence, court findings, and NDIS approval. In a recent judgment, the New South Wales Supreme Court, presided over by Justice Sarah McNaughton. Isn't it interesting? They always seem to get a woman judge to preside over these rape things which you look at it and go, seriously? Can you not see that this could happen to you, you fucking retard? Anyway, apparently, maybe they've got wonderful security, maybe they get looked after a little bit better. I guess it helps being chosen. Anyway, determined that Wilmot is likely to reoffend with offenses potentially involving forced penetrative sex activity, coercion, violence, weapons, and victims, including children. How is this different to any of the other cults that run this fucking planet? Despite this assessment, Wilmot was approved for NDIS funding until June 2026, with a plan amounting $221,620.99. What are we selling, a fucking car? That's the kind of price you would see on a car, for the, and $99.99. It's like something out of Back to the Future. But anyway, it's not, because we're never really left the past. Anyway, for the first year, subject to annual review, the funding supports Wilmot's access to services such as mates and mentors while he is on external leave from a prison halfway house. It also provides for 4 hours of daily assistance to aid his social, economic, and community participation, available 7 days a week. Fuck me. Public outcry, you wonder. The Daily Mail's report ignited widespread online anger, with Big Chocky, real name Chris Catalaris, branding the decision as sick and twisted. Wow, that's being nice. And labeling the NDIS as a scam. Again, still being nice when abused. He acknowledged the scheme's benefits for those in genuine need, but need strong language to criticize its misuse, stating this dog shouldn't be getting what he's getting. I'm inclined to agree. Some countries in the world are, looking for castration for people like this, but here in Australia, no, we give them massive NDIS scam packages. Wilmot's criminal history dates back to 1988. And he, along with 4 others, abducted 20-year-old Janine Balding at knife point from the Sutherland railway station. She was sexually assaulted, hog-tied, and drowned in a dam with her jewelry stolen and bank card used for cash withdrawals. Wilmot received a 9-year sentence for related charges and were released on parole in 1996. So you can keep going into this sort of shit, but you know, he is deemed a high risk in the high risk spectrum, but still allowed out in society and given a shitload of money to do God knows what with. You can buy a lot of legal services with that kind of money, I guess. It's a fucked up world, isn't it? While decent people like the poor lady who was speaking on the TGB before, who's starving and struggling to fucking survive, you know, not to mention the poor victim of this vile piece of human fucking excrement, you know, fucking what the fuck? Seriously, what the fuck? Dedicated to the what the fuck boys, Sips. Anyway, let's keep moving. Did I think I might have had something that needs to go in here before we move into the next one, or do we? No, we'll just do the vaccine thing. How a gaggle of vaccine trade groups got a federal judge to help upsell vaccines no state thinks are necessary. Interesting. Do we really need to read any further? We've got the basic idea. Something happened. RFK Junior's people need to understand. U.S. District Judge, child vaccine student and strips the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention Director of the authority to change who gets vaccines. Wonderful. So U.S. Judge Brian Murphy in Massachusetts issued a preliminary injunction in AAP versus Kennedy that freezes the federal childhood vaccine schedule and strips the Center for Disease Control and Prevention Director of the authority to change who gets which vaccines. Not for a week, not until the hearing, but for the duration of this case, which could be years. So again, it's lawfare. Another example of how we fuck around with bullshit legal fucking crap so that evil can continue to prevail for at least a little bit longer. It's a death roll, you know. They're death roller. It's a defensive move. You know, they're defending themselves because they're on the back foot. Everything's fucking happening badly against them, or is it all part of the plan? Lawyers threaten to sue HHS unless RFK Jr. amends vaccine injury table. Again, you know, no, you can't keep you can't let. You've got to stop. The spice must flow for all you fucking June fans out there. You know, the spice must flow. The murder must flow. And we need our cash cow of death and misery and destruction to continue. That's the fundamental message from the vaccine cartel these days, and always has been fundamentally. You know, at the end of the day, it comes down to the people saying, "Fuck you, hell no, we won't go." Just remember, N and O, right in the middle of the alphabet, just to let you know that it is the core value of our spoken word, the ability to say no. So one vengeance for all. So now we come to why I titled this And Vengeance for All, as opposed to the Metallica 1988 album And Justice for All. Love my little play on words, don't you? Of course you do. That's why you turn up every week and watch this shit. So anyway, let's get to the video. Let's get to the video before we start looking at the analysis. Now, I've posted it into Telegram for those who want to download it and use it for their own benefit and whatever. I've also put it up on X as a question. What do you think? You know, I'd like to see a little bit of user feedback. It took a little bit of effort to find one that wasn't a very degraded version. It seems like people have trouble downloading these things and re-uploading them properly. I'm not sure where the original source come from, but we'll have a look in a minute. This is a recent discovery just this morning. So now, why have I re-added it? I've already got it here. Let's have a look. Tell me, what do you think? Oh, actually, before we do that, we'll have a look. Sent that video to you. Look in your email. All right, thanks, mate. I will have a quick look at that. Jason, no worries. In the meantime, let's have a look at what vengeance looks like. Fascinating indeed, is it not? Now, when I watched that, I'm like, all right, where's it going? They're all looking at the sky. At first I'm like, okay, so they're blaming a deity of some sort, So no, they're apparently looking over at yet another bloody missile, another bit of fiery vengeance. But it's hard. Like it's just like, in my opinion, it's a very interesting propaganda tool used by Iran, grabbing America's AI engine and using it against it, against itself. Much like the admission made in Inglorious Bastards. For those of you who have not gone and have a look at the movie Inglorious Bastards, I advise you go and watch it again. Right, if you watch it, haven't watched it, watch it again. But if you haven't watched it, go and watch it again. I remind you. So I was going. At around about 1 hour in, there's a little scene in a big fucking empty fucking room. It's interesting they chose a big empty room. You can read into these things as you wish. But the important detail is that they point out that Hollywood is Jewish propaganda, because what the Nazis were doing with their film industry was Nazi propaganda. So one turn deserves another, does it not? It's very simple, But it openly states in there, Hitler's trying to beat the Jews at their own game. That is what they say. Not what I'm saying. That's what the movie, straight out of Hollywood, big holes in that fucking thing, Anyway, we know who runs that industry. We know what's really going on, and it's a propaganda machine. And now we're seeing the reverse done. Now, but it's interesting, the choices. They point out all the horrible things that the Western American dominated. Who runs the money? Who are they continuously in massive amounts of debt to? Think about this. Who started the recent wars? Interesting that they chose the signification of Baal. Let's bring this back in just so we can sort of look at it. But we're now, this is dedicated to Baal worship, and it's actually mentioned in the Old Testament that people of the former Israelite thing were worshiping Baal. Let's go ahead, look at it. Mauro Biglino, we're going to look at it soon enough, but we'll deal with that later. Right now, but why the bull? What's it about? Why were there 12 apostles? Why are there 12 hours on the clock? One of the things I realized, while learning German is it's not just English that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then the teams start. There's significance to the number 12, all right? Why? Other than the clock, other than the cycle of the 6-pointed star, otherwise known as the Star of David, which can easily be drawn in to the face of the bull, but age of Taurus. The religions aren't really about monotheism. You come back to where they were, 12 apostles, these things is that number because there's 12 star signs. It's all about as above. Astrology. There's a power to this. And why is Jesus represented as a fish? Age of Pisces. Where are we moving? Age of Aquarius. Be like water, as Bruce Lee would say. Think about these things, ladies and gentlemen. There is a big cover up to distract you from fundamentally. Look, I did notice that Jason, you said you've sent it to me in email. Unfortunately, it hasn't come through, so I just thought I'd point that out too. So just remind me again. I'll keep looking. I've been having trouble with emails actually going through. Like when I was on the podcast with Harps, I sent him an email. So, sorry, man, I'm on the dunny. I'll be there soon. Thinking that I was only 10, 15 minutes late when it was actually 2 hours. Thanks. But anyway, long story short, the emails are not coming through lickety split like they should be. I don't know why. I'm not sure what's happening there. Actually, Jason, what's your provider for the email? I'm wondering, because that's obviously I'm using Proton Mail. I'm wondering if things from, say, Hotmail or Gmail or various other things are actually delaying things going to Proton Mail in a protest. Just a thought that occurred to me. So, let me know, Jason. Please keep an eye on that wonderful comment runners out there. Anyway, it's interesting they chose Baal, as the worshipping god, and it's big. He was big back in the old Middle Eastern fucking times. You got to wonder who the true worshippers of Baal. Now we apply the concept of accuse your enemy of what you're doing while you're doing it. Is Iran the same? Is a question one might ask, but it's hard to get past, all the imagery here, the destruction of the Native American lands, the destruction here of the Australian cultures. Obviously, one of the things I remember a long time ago, somebody said, so what do you think of the Holocaust? Thinking he was fucking intelligent, and, telling me, can you say your email address again? NQ Freedom Network at protonmail.com. Thank you for bringing that up. And the first thing I said, what, Hiroshima? No, the one in Germany with the Jews. Oh, what? Because that was the only Holocaust? What the fuck? Even as a child, I must have been about 14 years old or something when I asked that question. What? So, the dropping fucking 2 nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and then the next on Nagasaki wasn't a fucking Holocaust? I mean, at least they were quick about it, I guess, but those are only in the blast radius. Then those that die a little slower, and all the other, you get the picture. You know where this is going. The choice of the Vietnam War, and again, why was that? To stop communism, apparently. But what's communism? I don't know. It all looks the same to me. Destruction of the Middle East. Palestine. Is there a place? Of course, Epstein Island is a beautiful choice, and there's the ring home for the standard white person. There's the beautiful young, white girl on Epstein Island, and you got to wonder about the choice of background there. Very interesting, the tile patterns, these are all very significant things you'll see in a lot of places. Actually, I was watching a video just yesterday, and I noticed that pattern on the railing, at one of the institutes for history. Interesting, isn't it? There's stripy patterns and the way they do things and arches and all that sort of vile shit. But yeah, that's a nice choice, I must say. For the Iran propaganda campaign, really have managed to hit home, and it really gets you thinking. Is that why Israel has fast forward and pushed so hard to create this war? Is to distract you from Epstein Island, to distract you from the fact that they are heavily tied to it? Is that why Trump is being humiliated, if that's what's happening? These just questions. Can you put it in the chat? All right. Oh, yeah, no worries. So, but these are very interesting, very nice touch, and it's very hard for me to look at that and go, that's propaganda. It's actually so close to reality that it's hard to see it as propaganda, isn't it? What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Please drop your comments in. I want to see what other people think when they watch that video. And while I'm typing this in, actually, we might go back. Let's watch it again and really think about the imagery. And can you say that it's propaganda when it's so fucking? Very interesting. But what I find interesting is that it goes to the bottom of the ocean. Now, obviously, the Statue of Liberty, which is a bit of a joke unto itself when it comes from a cultist cabal of people, ends up at the bottom of the ocean, much like so many civilizations before it. And again, bringing us back to the fish head, of the religion. Their stupid little fucking hats and their funny outfits, and how it was it's like sending them back. It's very, very interesting. Very, very, very intelligent. They know their shit. That's for sure. They've said, like, I mean, these are things that everybody's pissed off and concerned about. No, we're sick of war. We have been for a long time. Like, you go back to the hippie movements back in the 60s and the 70s. No more war. We want peace, man. Peace, dude. Another reason to get rid of and censor the drug movement, because it seems to break the fucking programming in a lot of people when you distort your point of view, when you actually step outside of yourself and start to think about what's really going on by shifting your perception. Now, one of the things I learned from Don Juan's stuff, or Carlos Constantinito, wrote about Don Juan, and the book, The Fire Within, was the big one that I managed to find while spirit walking through a library a long time ago. Where was I going with that? Totally lost my fucking point of view there. Look, fascinating stuff. Anyway, you should go and have a look at it one way or the other. I completely lost it. The universe told me I'm not supposed to speak of it. So anyway, just go and look at the book. Figure it out for yourself. What was I going to say? I don't know. I can't remember. Anyhows, so with all that shit in mind, what's really going on? Where is things going? I mean, obviously the cabal love war. They love destruction and death and murder. The question remains, is this Islamic faith really the real threat? When, I mean, shit, which faith is attributed to the banking cartel? Which faith is dominating and manipulating and twisting everything from behind the scenes? Which faith has been kicked out of just about every fucking country in Western society for hundreds of thousands of years and then claim, but we were persecuted? Yeah, I can't help but think you don't get that kind of reputation from being a good person. Just a thought, Another one of the concepts that was put to me, I got it from a video game, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. In this particular game, you go through a whole bunch of different stuff, whether you're light side or dark side. Now, of course, me being me, I like to see what happens on both sides, because the true story of Star Wars, as far as I understand it, is balance in the Force. Right? And we've seen the imbalance in the Force with the first three movies from 77 to 83. Again, 6 comes into mind, but we've seen the dark side part, but everybody wants to know, how do we get to the dark side? And you go back to the 1, 2, and 3 stories, and you go, well, we said there's the light side part. So the light side, in its attempt to bring balance to the Force, engineered their own demise by training Darth Vader against the will of Yoda, the only one who could see it was a bad idea. It's clouded. This isn't looking good. I can't see the future right now. There's something wrong here. The dark side clouds this. You want to understand how Anakin come to be? There's a wonderful book, Darth Plagueis. Yes, I'm going to make you read the book. I'm not going to tell you what's in it. How? But the question is, where did Anakin come from? Because there was no father. Another immaculate conception construct. Interesting. Given the nature of the industry who runs it, what they're trying to say here, born of the Force itself, in a sense. But read the book Darth Plagueis. Sorry, Darth Plagueis, the master before Palpatine, who's also mentioned in the third movie. I might have watched Star Wars a couple of times and really analyzed the fuck out of it. But anyway, let's really think about, what does balance in the Force really mean? Well, according to the Jedi, balance in the Force was more light side. Doesn't seem very balanced. The opposition, because of so much insane light, brought darkness. Now, we're living in a period of fucking darkness, if ever we've seen one. You just go and look at the fucking history books. The last several thousand years since the flood was darkness, and it would appear it was descending into darkness before that too, based on what that said. But that's not just the Bible that said that. Some might even argue it's a form of plagiarism, since there actually is many stories that say basically the same thing, but are considered myth because, well, the chosen ones didn't say it, But of course, they were chosen in their time. It's funny story though, when you really think about it. So, what is balance in the Force? Well, it's not absolute darkness and it's not absolute light. There's some sort of a balance in between, one might think. I've never seen it. I've never seen the story that shows you what balance looks like. We only ever see the continuous war. Is that what balance is? Is this scales of justice, like, one army on one side of the scales, another army on the other side? Is that the scales of justice? Light versus dark, constantly trying to balance each other out. Is that what that is? Gotta wonder. Got to wonder. Anyway, let's continue further forward. A turning point for Europe. Historic EU Parliament votes signal rightward realignment on migration, privacy, and translation ties. Now, those of you who have been watching religiously, pun intended, will know that, I said quite some time ago, the left has pushed so fucking far left, and now it's become so fucking repugnant that, again, in an attempt to bring it back to the balance in the Force, it's going to come swinging back. Like, this is balance in the Force in a sense, right? It's doing fuck all. The only reason it's moving is because I can't keep my hands still. But when the left, or from my perspective, the right, but from you, when the left comes smashing through, equal and opposite reaction. Newton's second law of physics, fundamental scientific principle that we can now apply to politics and religion. When one side swings too far one way and pushes too hard to the other side is forced to respond. And get, bang, you see the punch in the movie, take the fucking hit, and he comes flying back and he delivers another one back, and it's just this backwards and forwards until eventually it slows down. Now, I always struggled with Newton's second law, equal and opposite reaction, because, that seems to be the case. But in some cases, it escalates, unlike in the realm of physics there, where you see it slowly, eventually slows down till it becomes balanced once again and stops. Until some intervening force, in this case, again, we could perceive the universe in harmony. Planet Earth, society in harmony. Everything's good. Everybody's getting along. They're happy. Sitting side by side. Nobody's bothering anyone. They're happily existing until the hand of God comes along and goes, let's play marbles. That was fun. Oh, let's do it again. What happens if we make it even bigger this time? Hang on. No, we can do better. Well, let's make it bigger again. More bombs. Chaos. How many ways do you want to look at the same fucking thing before you see it? Anyway, a turning point for Europe. History EU votes rightward realignment on migration. So they pushed so hard that the pushback is coming. On Thursday, the European Parliament in Strasbourg delivered what many are calling one of the most significant setbacks. If you're on the other side, I guess. If you've come smashing through and you've been, oh shit, here they come, they're throwing one back. Fucking what? Maybe you shouldn't have started a fight. But anyway, in recent memory, for the EU's traditional bureaucratic and centrist consensus, what the fuck is centrist? Well, I just showed you. It's sitting in the middle going, peace, man. Anyway, a single day, MEPs advanced stricter mass deportation rules. It's what people in the countries want. Go back to your country so we can all sit together side by side happily again, right? Rejected controversial mass surveillance. Of course, how is mass surveillance not controversial? Of private communications, again, invasive of privacy, known as chat control, Karen, and moved forward on dropping tariffs. Wow, Is free trade really free? It hasn't worked well for Australia, that's for sure, as part of a broader transatlantic trade reset. This might be one of the worst days in history for the EU bureaucrats. In other words, left-hearted destruction, destroyers and communist wolves in sheep's clothing. Mass deportation proposal passed. Chat surveillance proposal rejected. All tariffs on US goods dropped. The centrists have begun voting en masse with the nationalists. This has never been seen before, at least not within a larger European structure. Now, obviously, you might start to see an interesting construct of what is alleged to have happened in Nazi Germany. These outcomes reflect a pragmatic and unprecedented alliance between the center-right. I love these ridiculous fucking left and right fucking shit. It pisses me off to no end. But anyway, these are the terms and these are the concepts that you all think in. So European People's Party, the right-wing so-called far right, and I like that, so-called far right, groups such as Patriots of Europe, European Conservatives and Reformists and others, for the first time in years, traditional firewalls isolating, and I like firewalls, it's another form of gatekeeping, isolating nationalist voices have cracked, forcing Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's, what a vile, evil thing that is, agenda into retreat on sovereignty, borders, digital rights, and economic realism. Mass deportations advance a tougher EU return regulation. The Parliament voted overwhelmingly to launch interinstitutional negotiations on a reformed EU return regulation, often called the deportation regulation by critics. Of course, deportation. I don't give a shit what you call it. No, like reintegration is, again, left, right. It's the same fucking thing. How are we branding it? And branding is very important. We're going to come to that, right? The measures aims to make it far easier to deport rejected asylum seekers and irregular migrants. Key provisions include extended detention periods, 24 months, EU-wide recognition of return decisions. Yes, return to sender. Return to sender. When you get those fucking bits of things in the mail, it says to the owner or to the occupier, return to sender. That's not my fucking name. It's not addressed to me or anybody else in the household. Return to sender. It's usually advertising, so it's important that they pay to have their own fucking garbage back so they can fucking process it. Fuck them. That's the way I see it. And it's simple things like that, ladies and gentlemen, that you start to realize how things work and you start to empower yourself again. Somebody sent you a pile of shit. You're expected to open it because they've given you a fake fucking name. Every time I fart, I'm going to laugh. What the fuck are you people talking about? How can you not laugh at a fart? For fuck's sake, there's nothing funnier than a fart. Kevin Bloody Wilson told us this. Anyway, so back to the point. Creation of return hubs, return to sender, return that mail. I didn't ask for it. I didn't want it. Go away. Stronger cooperation requirements from returnees and fewer procedural safeguards. And of course, return to sender works on so many elements, Elbow, fuck off. I didn't ask for you. I didn't vote for you. I do not consent to you. I do not consent to government. I do not consent to governance. I do not consent to taxation. I do not consent to any of this shit. Fuck off. Return to sender. Piss off. We don't want you. We don't need you. You're a fucking blight. Anyway, supporters urge to address years of failed integration. No shit. Rising irregular arrivals, of course, and public frustration post 2015, 2020. No, people were pissed off long before that. Why do you think Pauline Hanson is so important? Like 1996 here in Australia, we figured it out. I'm pretty confident people back in Europe were seeing it too. But you've just had this mass media coercion. And just like we were talking about earlier, well, everybody else in the room says mass immigration is a good idea. And I feel like I'm the only one. I better shut my mouth and just go along with it because it just helps. I'm sorry, I've never been that person, I'll smile and nod. I ain't going to agree. Yeah, right. It's a sarcastic nod every time I smile and nod. Yeah, right. I'd explain it, but I'd be talking to the fucking wall. But yeah, okay. You say that. Cool. I love listening to idiots rant. It gives me more ammunition for the time when it's appropriate, like now. Anyway, similar national policies in Italy under Meloni, Denmark, and Netherlands have already normalized this harder line. Chat control defeated, a victory for digital privacy. Tariffs on US goods dropped. Pragmatic trade reset with Trump's America. The political earthquake. Centrists align with nationalists, and the centrists. Now the centrists, those who are sitting in the center, going, "We just want fucking peace," are now the enemy of the left. You see how this is? It's just ridiculous. They're playing games. But the big question I ask, is this by design? They've pushed so far left because they actually wanted to come back right. Because you got to remember, when the alleged crimes of Nazi Germany were happening, America funded the fuck out of the Nazis. Ford provided a shitload of engines for the Nazis. The George Bush family. I can't remember the guy's name. The one before George Bush Sr. was selling weapons to the Germans as well. Again, you look at the fucking all the Hollywood, blonde hair, blue eyes was revered constantly. It's only recently that this multicultural agenda has just wiped out fucking TV to a point that it's so disgustingly obvious. You look at the latest Spider-Man movies, have replaced every one of the characters with some sort of a token. You used to laugh, I think it was like Scary Movie or something. Hey, I'm the token black guy in this movie. We used to laugh about that. We had to have the one token black guy, Now we've got to token everything, to the point where the cast is so fucking multicultural, it is actually incohesive and incomprehensible. It doesn't make any fucking sense. No, it doesn't happen in the fucking real world. And that's the problem. They're trying to push a propaganda campaign where it is so blatantly fake that nobody can even buy it anymore, And now you take that knowledge of what you're seeing in the modern fucking disgusting, let's turn everyone gay and fucking ridiculous, insane multiculturalism, where there's no such thing as white people in my family. It's all mixed racial everything, to the point nothing makes any fucking sense. You look at it and go, hang on, actually, I was watching, was it Lucifer, and we got a white couple here, but the child looks like I don't know, I can't quite pick the race. I'm feeling like some sort of a Mexican or Native American sort of descent from two white parents. How the fuck did that happen? And they don't claim that they fucking adopted the child, like they don't say one way or the other. You look at the kid and you go, this kid don't fit. This doesn't make sense. The brain knows this is not right. Of course, in order to enjoy the story, you've got to forget the fucking fact that there's a reality out there. But anyway, now you take that concept and this knowledge of how the disordered shit to push the political agenda, and you go back and you look at the old shit and you go, oh, fuck, they've always been doing it. It just wasn't as fucking painfully obvious back then. Anyway, now Captain America and Iron Man are both black. Yeah. But they did that in the comic books to start with, of course, that's where it all starts, But I agree, it makes no sense. None of this shit makes any sense, And again, how do you feel anything but replaced? Of course, there's going to be a response. Is that what they wanted? That's the question. It doesn't seem to matter whether you worship the left or the right, whether you worship Islam or Israel, whether you go Catholic or Christian. It doesn't seem to matter which way you align, as long as you align to some form of control. That's the important thing. It doesn't matter to these people. The important thing is that they are above because they are the chosen and you are just the serf. That's the important thing to learn here. Anyway, so we could continue on that. We don't really need to. So Tel Aviv. What is Tel Aviv? Tel Aviv officially, Tel Aviv Yafo, and also known as Tel Aviv Jafar, which is interesting. The Jafar are the enemy in Stargate, which is something I just started watching recently because it's a little bit more kid-friendly than most of the things I'd like to watch. Is the most popular city in Gush Dan metropolitan area of Israel, right? Now, why have I put this into? I just wanted to everybody know where it is, because the skies turn dark. Thousands of crows circle Tel Aviv, sparking ominous warnings. This is just 2 days ago. So the sky over Tel Aviv suddenly filled with thousands of crows, making the area look dark and unusual. Ooh. The birds were seen flying in large circles above tall buildings, including the famous Azraeli Towers, as in the angel Azrael, perhaps. Was it really an angel? Seriously? I'm not buying it. Videos of the huge flock quickly went viral on social media, shocking many viewers. Some people online said the strange sight could be seen, could be a bad sign linked to rising tensions between Israel and Iran. Is that what it is? Or is it the fact that those running your little pocket universe there in Israel are evil, fucking sadistic pieces of shit, just like everywhere else? They're all fucking evil pieces of shit. I'm not saying it's just Israel. I'm saying every fucking world leader of every controlled system, it's all control, are the same. But nature is trying to send a communication. You look at this picture. This is a disgusting city. You can't see a tree. Not that it's the most high resolution image in the world, but even in this low resolution, you can see there's a few birds. Anyway, one user on X called it the harbinger of doom and warned it could mean a disaster. Now for those who, are a little bit more attached to earthbound religions, or I wouldn't even call it religion, earthbound spirituality, where you actually read the signs, and see what's really going on. Something I've been doing for a very long time in my own little way. And, it's probably why I've always identified with more earthbound spiritual views as opposed to the dominating, controlling, rule, subjugate, and divide of religion. And warned it could mean a disaster. Wow. How you read and interpret signs is up to you. Others connect because, as far as I've always said, and I maintain this animately, everybody's spiritual journey is their own. We interact with each other and we can read the tea leaves amongst each other, but, it's still your own, and you choose what you're offended by. You choose what you believe. You choose your reality. And that's an interesting concept into itself. Think about that. Others connect the event to religious prophecy from the book of Revelation and as stated by Daily Mail. The specifically mentioned Revelation 19:17, which talks about birds gathering for the major event. Let's grab that, shall we? Just for a bit of shits and giggles. Describes an angel standing. I want an actual thing. I don't want you to tell me what it is. Again, I don't want somebody to read it to me. But again, let's understand this is not done right. So, and I saw an angel standing in the sun who cried in a loud voice to all the birds flying in midair, come gather together for this great supper of God. Are they going to eat them? So that you may eat. Oh, shit. As if I read it before. The flesh of kings, generals, and the mighty, of horses and their riders, and the flesh of all people, free and slave, great and small. Interesting. So let's grab this and do what I love to do because it's fun. Oh, actually, I need to go to another browser to do this. I don't trust that one. Let's try this. Bring that down. Share new screen. We're doing this live. What's going to happen? No one knows. Control V. Replace all terms such as God, angels, and likewise to their original Hebrew words. All right. Because let's face it, we don't really know. Oh, I gotta adjust that and do it right. Let's go back. Sorry, fucked it up. Control V. Space. Revelations. Space. Hebrew. Oh, I forgot the H. Isn't it he brew? Well, he brewed. Sips. Hebrewed the nectar of the gods and then fucked with shit. Yeah. Apparently can't be done. Okay, replace, return, change the word. Nah, it's not playing anymore. So we'll have to imagine it ourselves. Yeah, when they're talking about these things, that they probably don't mean what you consider to be angels, because things get warped. So let's get into that. All right. So I've got this shit. This is where we're gonna go. Feel free to go and grab. I'm gonna play a video while we get yourself ready. You can go to the Telegram, guys out there. Can you guys bring up the Telegram link thing? It's while I grab a quick video here. What have I got? Predictive programming and cloud seeding. All right, so this is an important one, straight out of Hollyweird itself. You can find that book available on my Telegram site. I didn't do it. I'm just resharing that which I've shared from oceansofpdf.com. I got it for free, so I'm sharing it for free. I'm not asking for anything. If you'd like to contribute, that's up to you. But anyway, let's quickly watch this video while sorting shit out.
The battle begins. On the ground, chemical cloud seeders begin to work the two storm areas. Robot planes seed the clouds from above. The storm centers over Kansas and over Labrador intensify as seeding continues.
Now changing over to Hurricane Center H8.
The fury of the hurricane mounts as 100-mile-an-hour winds lash the sea to a foaming frenzy.
All stations, Sector C. Activate Phase 2, Control Plan Delta. Set vapor rockets for 42,000 feet. Execute.
As an emergency measure, the controller calls for a salvo of vapor rockets to be fired ahead of the path the hurricane is predicted to take. These artificial clouds will block the sun from evaporating more water to feed the hurricane. The reports coming into the control center indicate that the diversionary cloud seeding over Kansas is now creating a flood danger. Specially equipped robot aircraft are dispatched immediately to release a high concentration of cloud seeding material into the fringes of the storm. Heavier seeding from the ground also helps to subdue the rain by spreading it over a wider area. The controller calls for another view of the hurricane, which has now moved closer to the coast.
I'd just like to thank my mate Richo for sending that through to us. It gives you an idea of how they're selling things. Now, of course, I've referenced this book many times, Mauro Biglino. For those of you who have not watched before or first-time watchers, what the hell happened there? That was interesting. Used to work for the Vatican and was largely in charge of translating the original Hebrew texts for the Vatican, and like and much like Eric von Daniken, Chariots of the Gods, he also used to translate, parts of the Bible from one language to another backwards and forwards and shit. Old mate was German. This fella's fucking Italian. Some sort of a merge there because they fought together in World War II. Just another thing to consider, fundamental observation. Doesn't really matter, but just something to consider and think about. There's so many things things to think about and draw into the knowledge toolbook. Now, of course, I've grabbed little pieces, and what I'm about to do is take sentences perhaps out of context from a certain point of view, which is why I encourage everybody to actually read the fucking book. This is the problem with everybody goes, is there a fucking movie? I'm sorry, you're only going to get little pieces when you get things out of context like this. And for those of you who do like to watch movies, go ahead and watch Iron Man. I believe it was the second Iron Man movie where the same thing was done. You do realize that taking sentences out of context does not reflect the entire nature of the volume. Yes, of course it does. So with that in mind, terms such as the Kabbalah, which is interesting. I seen that and I thought, Kabbalah? Coincidence? Is an esoteric method, discipline, and school of thought in Jewish mysticism that forms the foundation of mystical, Freudian slip, religious interpretations within Judaism. The term derived from the Hebrew Kabbalah literally means act of receiving or tradition, referring to the received wisdom of God's essence and his interaction with the world. This ancient tradition, which emerged in its medieval form during the 12th and 13th century, so, interesting to evolution of an idea, serves as the soul of the Torah by revealing the inner hidden meanings of the Hebrew Bible and Jewish law. Now, I love the word soul. You take the U out of it and you've got the name for our sun, which brings us back to sun worship, much like all ancient earthbound constructs. And the more you understand how, earthbound spirituality evolved into monotheism, and the more you research these things, you start to realize just how distorted the reality of religion really is. Big project that I've been working on for many, many years. I'm going to try to summarize as quickly as I can. Reveal the inner hidden meaning, right? Reveal the inner hidden meanings, right? That's the important thing. Inner hidden meanings. It teaches that all creation is an emanation, from the infinite. So the one infinite creator, as some might say, which is much better than the alleged unknowable God, En Sof, and explores the relationship between the divine and the finite universe through concepts like the 10 Sephirot and the tree of life, which again brings us to earthbound constructs such as Norse mythology, tree of life. All right, cool. Celtic religions, it was all about trees. There's a lot of things that come down to the tree, because as above, so below. Again, I actually kind of brought this out. I actually done a little bit of artwork for the first time in a long time. It's I'll do a little piece on this actually, but what's symbolized, on this side here is the tree and the roots. As above, so below. You can read into this, and I haven't actually done an artwork like that in 20 fucking years, but I did it the other day, and that's what came out. And it's actually a reprint, because the original, I never colored in the originals. This time I decided to do it because I was coloring in my kids. But anyway, key concepts within color. Theoretical. Actually, I'm going to bring that back. Sorry. So key aspects of the Kabbalah include theoretical Kabbalah, which focuses on the theosophical speculation regarding the nature of God and the structure of the cosmos. Now, theo, again, going back to the Greek concept, theology, theater, where people sit down in what we would call a theater today, but and have a philosophical discussion, actually think about things and just discuss it without trying to shoot each other over it. It's an interesting concept, sitting down and talking without killing each other. Fundamentally absurd in modern day, but anyway, it can be done apparently. I wonder if that's what balance in the force looks like. Anyway, meditative Kabbalah, which employs spiritual techniques to receive union with the divine. Practical Kabbalah, which involves the use of numerology, and occult meanings to influence everyday experience. Very important. So the practical application of the Kabbalah involves the use of prayer, numerology, and occult, hidden knowledge, means to influence everyday experience. Are you starting to get it yet? Right? Foundational texts, most notably, so it shall be written, so it shall be done. Most notably, the Zora, written in the 13th century. So again, here we are adding and adapting to what was already done. It's becoming a giant shit show. And the whole as above, so below, so it shall be written, so it shall be done means shit show as far as I'm concerned, and riddled with contradiction and confusion so that you don't know what's really going on while we get you to pray while they play with numerology and occult to influence your everyday experience. That's one way of interpreting it, just one. Just the first thing that popped into my mind, which provide the primary source material for these teachings. All right. Now that's important. You'll see why. Now let's have a look. So on page 179 of the book, which I have referred to, Gods of the Bible, instead of founding theological, back that word, theological again, theory, also derived from it, considerations on what is written, a theological approach tends to shape the word meanings based on a prior positions. This happened for the Bible, especially during the vocalization process, as Professor Giovanni Gabini points out. Now, this is very interesting. Words underwent drastic transformations. Transsexual words, transformers, more than meets the eye, changing their meaning according to the ideological needs of the individual biblical authors. Read that again. According to the ideological needs of the individual biblical authors, which in the final phase of composition were far removed from those at the beginning of the first millennia BCE. Far removed from those at the beginning of the first millennia BCE. Now, this book is really good at pointing this shit out, and I highly recommend you fucking read it in its entirety, right? Many philosophical, religious, esoteric elaborations and mystical and Kabbalistic practices have developed from the tetragrammaton. We'll come to that word. Actually, might want to do it. Oh, I ended up doing that twice. Oh, no, oh, shit. Anyway, you get the idea. Wasn't meant to be. Definition of tetragrammaton is the four-letter Hebrew name for God in the Hebrew Bible, consisting of consonants Yod, Ha, Vav, and He. Translated to Yahweh or Yahweh, the term itself is derived from the Greek words tetra, four, and gramma, letter, literally meaning four letters. Now, what's interesting about this is the understanding that the Hebrew language removed the vowels, which is a very interesting concept. It's like if you took the word Ford, all right, F-O-R-D, and we take the O out because we don't have vowels, so we got F-R-D, right? Now, who's to say 1,000 years later somebody doesn't go F-R-A-U-D and now Ford becomes fraud? If I spelt that right. Anyway, I probably didn't because I suck at spelling. I'm trying to learn. And funnily enough, I'm actually learning English spelling from German. But anyway, it only took 45 years to figure that out. Meaning the name is etymology, so you get the fundamental idea. It's the idea that tetragrammaton is the removal of that vowel system, right? So as we reflect on the original name, uniform, lexicon, there was a point to this. So yeah, when the tetragrammaton first uttered at the first time of Enosh, Genesis 4:26, you'll need to see that name. Hebrew did not yet exist. Right? The word, the concept of the language did not exist. Even when Moses heard it, Hebrew had yet to be formed. So we're basing these things off a language that hadn't even been formed when these events happened. What language did the people whose families had lived in Egypt for centuries and whom Moses had led out speak? Was it Aramite? Was it Aramaic? Was it Egyptian? Very important questions. You got to wonder. And where did these stories come from? Because there's a lot of stories, older than the fucking Hebrew text that say very similar things. According to Professor Grabini, the Israelite tribes must have spoken a form of Aramaic. A logical conclusion is all this, is all it is. We wonder then, what is the point of asking what meaning the term Yahweh could have in Hebrew when this language was not even spoken, let alone written? These are very important things. The word of God, written in God knows fucking what. Anyway, another interesting point that I know, Sumerian literary accounts also confirm the Bible passage of, I'm going to zoom in because I just realized you guys are seeing it smaller. Deuteronomy. I'm not even sure how to say that word, to be honest, but does it matter? You can see it. 32. For those who do know how to say it, you can scream it really loud and I won't hear it. In fact, with all likelihood, the biblical account derives from the Sumerian tablets. Sips. Derives from the Sumerian tablets. The Bible provides a concise form of what the Sumerians explained at length. Sumerologists, you might even say summerologists if you looked at it in a certain way, but anyway, known this Sumerian narrative as Enki and the world order. World order. In this story, the Anunnaki commander, Enki, defines the world's destinies by arranging the partition of power among the lesser Anunnaki. So lesser Anunnaki, you also want to think about Elohims and all these other things, and lessers, and there's a ranking system. The ones below him. This division is described in a remarkably detailed manner. Enki is superior to all others, much like Yahweh, one would think. He has the power to determine the destinies of different lands and territories. Different lands and territories. Again, we can see a divisional state, everything carved up, much like what happened after World War I, where the Ottoman Empire was carved up into multiple countries. They're very good at doing these things, which are named in succession: Sumer, Ua, Malua, Dalaman, Alam. I'm probably saying all this wrong. You get the idea, I do know the Euphrates. I do know that term. Anyway, the marshy region and the sea. The supreme leader established what we could today call a new world order. It's not a fucking new concept, is it? These things have been played out for thousands of years with the same kinds of people, with the same kind of concept, with the same bullshit fucking stories. Enki also distributes privileges and responsibilities to the individual Anunnaki under him. Seems a lot like our government, for instance. You got fuckwits like Albo who claim he's, Enki, Yahweh, some kind of he's a leader, and he delegates to all the fuckwits beneath him, who are also apparently the chosen ones, right? They've all been chosen, they've all been selected, they've all been put there. Anybody who's watching this no doubt thinks that way, right? So he assigns to the lesser gods, plural, gods, the development of various activities that constitute the basis of human civilization: agriculture, animal husbandry, weaving, building, and so on. The Sumerians were so accurate in describing these events that they did not forget to mention the less edifying aspects of the behavior of these so-called gods. Now, anybody who's looked into the old gods, Thor and all these various other fucking concepts, Odin and fucking Saturn devouring his own children was a wonderful art piece. If you haven't seen it, let's why not? Saturn devouring himself. His children. Saturn devouring his children. It was an art piece I studied in high school. There it is. Saturn devouring his children. Wonderful, isn't it? His son, in this particular, also known as Saturn, is painting by Spanish Francisco Goya. The work is one of 14 so-called black paintings that Goya painted directly on the walls of his house sometime between 1820 and 1823. It was transferred to canvas after Goya's death and is now in Museo del Prado in Madrid. How do you get something off the wall and transfer it fucking canvas? Yeah, wrap your head around that one. But anyway, this is these are our wonderful gods. These are the Elohims. These are these wonderful people who brought us the system of government we currently reside in. All right. So edifying aspects of the behavior of these so-called gods. You know, any wonder they need a system that hides true meaning, that hides truth. You know, Thor, Odin, Freya. And again, you look at the stories of Thor and Odin and Freya and Loki and all these fucking things. They weren't exactly nice fucking people. The same as the Greek gods, same as the Roman gods, all these things. They were fucking horrible fucking people. They really were. It was like an example of what not to be. But for some reason, much like the George Orwell's 1984, people take these things as an instruction manual rather than a lesson to be learned of what not to be. Sips. The minor gods were often dissatisfied with their assigned tasks. They quarreled about responsibilities and complained that Enki excluded them from the land distribution. This behavior is not surprising given their human-like nature. Apparently, we were made in God's image, and if this is the gods, any wonder we're carrying on like them. At what point do we evolve past the maker? At what point does the child learn from the parent not to be a cunt and start being better? Along the various places and lands that the Sumerian text mention, one cannot overlook Malhua. Anyway, you can continuously look into these things further. That's past where I wanted to go. Another point on page 192. All right. When we look at the history of the concept of the chosen people, and that's why I've been saying it, chosen people. Who are the chosen people? And who fucking chose them? That's the important question. We see how it changes diachronically. And the great degree of variation exhibits over time from the initial selections and assignments of Alon in determine whatever that fucking word is, 32, to modern sectarian and fanatical manifestations often found in monotheistic religions. To summarize, each Elohim had their inheritance and their chosen people. In other words, those who were chosen to serve directly to them, much like a king's aide, or perhaps, elbows left and right hand. The people who get to go on Airbus elbow with him, they get to be chosen to fly into the sky on the fiery chariot, so to speak, and go to special places while the rest of us live in squalor and poverty, right? All the ancient chronicles, including the Bible, tell us the great detail that these gods were never satisfied with their endowments, but were in constant struggle with each other to expand their dominions and spheres of influence. Right. So you start to see, right. So Yahweh goes and grabs a bunch of slaves, or at least, perhaps they freed themselves and, or were excommunicated even. And Yahweh comes along and goes, you guys look like you need a leg up. I'm your God. I was the God that your mob used to worship. But, Moses turns around and goes, well, how do I know that? Wow. He was confronted with God and said, how do I know you're God? Interesting, isn't it? So there are many gods with their respective chosen people. Their respective chosen people. These are very important concepts, ladies and gentlemen. Once you start to understand that this monotheistic construct, and it is a construct, and I'm not saying that there isn't an almighty infinite creator. I'm not saying that the universe doesn't exist. When you think about things in a realistic concept, okay, we can't fathom the enormity of infinity, for example. And these entities may have been a little bit closer to it. What were they? That's the $1 million question. What are the Elohim? What were the Anunnaki? The Anunnaki allegedly means from people from the heavens came. come down and fiery ships. But then there's also a tale of those coming from the sea, hence the fucking hat, you know, with the bloody fish looking head on it, you know. There's a lot of strange things going on. But if we're going to kill each other over this fucking book, I think it's important we understand what the hell it actually means, what effect it's had on our society, and the distortions and manipulations associated with it. And here we are seeing the same shit played out again. For example, now that you've got that perspective, actually, I think there's one more. All right. Its members, its members will bear the mark similar to that of cattle. Starting to feel a little bit like a sheep. Have you looked at your birth certificate? Top right-hand corner. Registration number. Look at the number plate in your car. Registration number. Your cat and your dog. You got to register them to the council, right? Okay. You getting these things? Whose individual animals are marked to distinguish them from other cattle. You know, who owns it? We need to know who owns it. So in this case, this is my covenant with you and your descendants after you, the covenant you are to keep. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You are to undergo circumcision, and it will be a sign of the covenant between me and you. A covenant? Is it a covenant? Like, I mean, we're covering you, you know, with our mark. You are being marked. You know, what's the difference between this and the mark of the beast, I wonder? For the generations to come, every male among you who is 8 days old must be circumcised, including those born in your household or bought with money from a foreigner. So slavery is okay. Those who are not your offspring. All right. So once you're brought into the herd, you must be branded. Hence my previous mentioning. Anyway, so I thought, okay, so when's the first mentioning of this? You know, like Yahweh's the be all and end all, and you know, like I mean, Yahweh freed them from fucking slavery from Egypt. So, you know, and I'm pretty confident that I recall seeing a long time ago that you know, in Egyptian fucking hieroglyphs and fucking various art forms, that circumcision was practiced there. So again, it seems to be that it wasn't predominantly just a Jewish thing. It's not just Yahweh who was doing this sort of shit, you know. It's been a branding for quite some time. And if Yahweh is just one element and there are other elements, you know, like a prime minister of this country and a prime minister of that country and a prime minister of this country and a president of that one, you know, they're just, you know, chosen leaders, chosen by, you know, a higher force. You know, what's the higher force? So fucking confident they hide in the dark, in the shadow. Yes, circumcision. You know, the question was this practiced by many cultures? Oh, there was a preceding question, but anyway, I want to get to the point. Cultures in Africa, Europe, and the Middle East before the Jews. I misspelt it, but it figured it out. Yes, circumcision was practiced by multiple cultures in Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Europe long before it became a Jewish ritual, according to AI. In Egypt, the oldest definitive evidence as bas relief from Saqqara, dated to 24,000 to 23,000 BC, depicts adult circumcision, likely as a rite of passage or a priestly initiation. Again, it's an initiation ritual. This is about as tribal as it gets. Herodotus, in the 5th century BC, noted that Egyptians, Ethiopians, Colossians, Phoenicians, and Syrians practiced circumcision, listing Egyptians first, indicating its antiquity in the religion. In sub-Sahara Africa, various ethnic groups, including Nilo-Saharan but Bantu-speaking peoples, practiced circumcision as a rite of passage into manhood, so they did it a lot later. Some traditions possibly dating back over 10,000 years, which is bringing us right back to fucking, you know, the original flood dates. Anyway, the Oceania, Australian Aboriginals and Pacific Islanders independently practiced circumcisions long before contact with Jewish and Islamic cultures. Interesting, isn't it? In Europe, while not widespread, Greek and Roman sources indicate circumcision was known but generally avoided. Wonder why. It's pretty sick. It was associated with barbarian or foreign customs, and by the 2nd century CE, it was largely limited to Jews and a few other groups in the Roman Empire. Thus, Jewish circumcision, traditionally linked to Abraham, emerged within a broader contextual context where the practice was already established, particularly in Egypt and Northeast Africa. So what kind of a branding is that when so many people are being branded in the same way? It makes you wonder. So if Yahweh is insisting that that's the branding, but every other fucking little leader's doing the same thing, it would seem to suggest that there is a cohort or a group. And much like we looked at Psalm 82, the meeting of the El and the Elohim all come together. They're all working for the same fucking thing. They're all doing the same thing. So how's it unique? How's it special? What kind of a branding is this? And who is the owner of the brander if it's not Yahweh, which clearly isn't, So anyway, I think we kind of got to the point. I've smashed the fuck out of that pretty good. Have I totally bent and busted your fucking heads? Or how many people are going, oh yeah, I knew that. Thanks fucking God somebody said it. All right, Jason says, check your email now. Let's have a look. There it is. All right, let's deal with that. We'll come to that in a minute. All right, so while I'm dealing with that, so how right do you have to be to be far right? Wow, guess is, as accurate as a sniper, I guess. That's how right you've got to be. And are you righteous in that action? Perhaps, I don't know. Where does the right come from? Richtig. What links it all together for those who speak German? What was the book? Had to go to kill a spider. The book, I'll bring it up for you again. Gods of the Bible, available on my Telegram. Also available at oceansofpdf.com, where I obtain these things from. Wow, I obtained it from the internet anyway. Can't remember if I actually got it from that site or not, but that's where I have it. That's the important thing. And, if you go to Telegram, you will too. And in order to do that, you can just quickly scan this code, or just go to Telegram and at NQ_freedom. One way or the other, and you will find a copy of that. I highly recommend people read it and start to understand the manipulation of what's really going on. And when you start to look at the Bible for what it actually is, not what you want it to be, or what you've told it is. And this is the problem: when you let somebody else tell you what's going on, you're getting their perception, not yours. Why let somebody else filter your perception? That's the problem. We are at war. It's a spiritual war, but it's also a perception war. How you see things is very dependent on the information you've been given, which is why the socialist indoctrination system guides you to think in a specific way. They tell history in a specific way, and that is the way of the master, the ruler, the leader, and they guide you to think the way they want you to. You need to break that mold. You need to start thinking, I know nothing, and apply the Socratic method. In order to truly know anything, you must first know that you know nothing. And of course, I'd just like to thank the Kabbalist Hollywood pieces of scum-sucking dog shit for teaching me that. And this is where I learned it.
Socrates, the only true wisdom consists in knowing that you know nothing. That's us, dude. Oh, yeah.
So?
Always with you what cannot be done. Do you nothing that I say?
Master, moving stones around is one thing. This is totally different.
No different. Only different in your mind. You must unlearn what you have learned.
You must unlearn what you have learned. Start again. Fresh slate. I'm not saying forget. Open your mind, Quaid. Open your mind. Actually, I don't think I have that quote, do I? I have to get that one. It's a good one. Open your mind, Quaid. Open your mind. So anyway, where was I? I was going to go somewhere, and I got distracted by Revelations. Badumch. I love my little jokes. They're so funny in my head. Don't know if anybody else cares. You know, that's the funny thing. I tell jokes. I get to laugh, but I don't get to really hear if you laugh too. What else of comments have we got here? What was the book? Yeah, we did that bit. Funny you had to kill a spider. I heard a lot of spiders popping around lately. I generally don't kill them because I just put a jar over them, scoop them up, show the kids, hey, isn't that cool? And then put them outside. You know, that's just me. You know, trying to be a little bit more Buddhist. Multiculturalism, right? That's what we're supposed to embrace. I reckon Dale, Nikki, and myself need to come on with you at some stage. We'd have an epic combo if you're up for it. Yeah, fucking oath. The Synchronicity show. Yeah, for sure. Look, drop me an email. Let's tee that up. Dale, you know, Synchronicity show, Dale and Nikki and myself, if that's what the name you're going for. By all means, drop me a line. nqfreedomnetwork@protonmail.com. Happy to fucking talk to anybody. Like, at the end of the day, I've just been doing this show myself lately because, well, I've come across so many things that I feel I need to share. And these are the things that I've been seeing. I'm like, wow. Yeah, I was chasing Darren up for a little bit there. He's been pretty busy, obviously, doing some amazing work behind the scenes that we will reveal in due time. No, the comments are there, but I as I was saying, I've got so many things I want to share. Like, these are just the things I come across this week, you know, and I'm putting it into context of the things of obviously, you know, gathered over years of trying to figure out what the fuck is really going on here. So, yeah, that's where we're at. So by all means, yeah, drop me a line. Let's do a show, man. Love to, you know. I think it'd be fun. I'm pretty, in fact, I'm more than confident it will be. So anyway, in other news, little sidetrack while I get to what Jason sent me. I'm just going to put this in here. This is a little side quest. Probably something that should have come in a little bit earlier, but what's really, we like your show, I'm guessing, because E is right next to W. Yes, it is. All the naughty kids love it. Yes, we are the naughty kids. We are the buggers with the dunce hats. We're the people who said, well, actually, my teacher said, you know, always off with the fairies, struggles to concentrate. No, I don't struggle. I struggle to concentrate on bullshit. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and listen to you talk kind of rubbish when even as a fucking primary school kid, I can see you full of shit. You know, I'm staring out the window going, why am I locked here? I want to be I want to be out there playing. You know, why are we in this socialist indoctrination center inserting word from adult to youth, you know? But the question is, what the fuck is this? Why am I here? You know, well, I'm answering it later. It's fucking nuts. Shu is the next show. You know, actually, I knew a kid in high school. I don't know if his last name was Shu. Anyway, I think his first name was Sock. I'm not joking. Anyway, you got to love it. Funny stuff. With a personal relationship with Jesus, my Lord and Savior. Trust truth. My Lord and Savior and the Holy Spirit as my helper and guide. Look, whatever you want to cling to, that's wonderful. I'm not saying that an entity such as perhaps Jesus, if that's even the word that was properly used 2,000 years ago to describe him, and perhaps others, is accurate. Look, the fundamental teachings such as storm into the fucking the local church, kick the tables over, call them a bunch of greedy bastards and get yourself crucified. Yeah, I'm down with Jesus. I'm down with that part of Jesus. I'm down with the fuck you, fuck your religion, fuck your establishment. That's the way I see Jesus. You know, live long and prosper. Let's be happy. Let's do the right thing. Let's, you know, try and love each other and all that sort of shit in a world full of shit, you know, and I'll get myself killed while doing it. Why not? Rather die fighting for what's right than living as a slave that might be a way of perceiving Jesus, is the way I perceive it. And again, personal perception, personal journey. I mean, if you need to go to church and have somebody else read the book to you, okay, that's you. Fine. I'm not going to criticize it, but I ain't going to join you. I'll tell you that much. I can read for myself. And I can go and find good shit that'll help me interpret things properly, because let's face it, we can't be a master of everything. Some people have said, good at everything is like, not being a master of anything. Well, I'm not interested in being a master of staring at a book. I'm not interested in being a master of making beer. I'm not interested in being a master of guitar or piano or drums or anything. I want to sample a little bit of everything. I'm the smorgasbord kind of dude. I want to have a little bit of everything, because I've got fuck all time on this planet, because it seems to be genetic manipulation was a thing, especially if you want to go for the Bible that claims 700-800 fucking year old 100-year lifespans to suddenly, lucky to make 70. You got to be shitting me. Then you go back further, apparently 30 to 40. But go figure, something went wrong there. We got a very limited time. Haven't got a lot of time. Thank you, Clark. I have to acknowledge Clark's wonderful comment. Batty, your beard. Whoa. I got it. Batty, your beard is looking magnificent. Well, thank you very kindly. It's I just let nature do its thing. It's all in genetics, I guess. Just let it happen. Just take a little bit off the sides. Kind of like police academy. Yeah, just a little bit off the sides. Thank you. What? You can do that? Yeah, this isn't the army, man. Sips. Haven't been to church for over a year. Well done. You're starting to read and think for yourself. Very good. The most important thing is you don't need somebody else to tell you what you know. Or you can ask people, what they think if you don't know something, but you still get to decide whether you think it's true or not. You listen to Brashear's work and Michael Shresian, bro? Sounds like you have. I actually have no idea anything about that. Sorry. Please send it through. I'll have a look. Most of things, I figured a lot of shit out for myself very early. And I've kind of spent the rest of the time trying to, I guess, find the evidence for it, because back in the day, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have a massive knowledge bank. What I did have was channeling ideas and art, where I come up with things like this. This is my high school art. I actually found it the other day, things like that, which is actually something I did outside of school. It has color in it. The original ideas of artistry, I want to sort of put, and you can see that's where the, like that's the little idea, you span back, and one of the things the art teachers, would say is like, I just, again, it's the socialist indoctrination system of art really fucked with things. So I do, well, that's the finished piece. That's it. It's done. I just create it. But then the teachers would say, no, but because of, everybody thinks everybody's cheating, you have to prove that you created it. So I'm like, but that's not how art works. You're an artist. You're an art teacher. You know that art just happens. You just do it. I don't sit down and plan it. I don't decide, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And if I think about it, I'm plotting a plan, I'm going to write an essay about it, and then I'm going to do art. Fuck that. Nobody fucking does that. That's retarded. Only a socialist indoctrination system can be so stupid. So what the teachers taught me to do was reverse engineer it. So I do the ultimate piece, and then out of every individual fucking idea that was in there, I'd go and do a piece on that and reverse engineer it and make it look like I'd done something according to their system. Another one of my favorite, high school pieces is that, again, the idea of analyzing that which is around. What are we seeing? And, the dripping on the wall, is it blood? It's black and white. You can interpret it as you wish. That's what I like about fucking the black and white system. It keeps things very straightforward. And I mentioned a long time ago, I would find it and I would show you. This is actually the first art piece I did the day high school ended. year 12, it's all over. All right. That is what, 1997? You see the burning building long before Twin Towers, eh? Interesting what you can channel. And, you know, here I am returning fucking 20 plus years later, going back, and I noticed very straight away, cool, the same kind of concepts I'd always done. Just a little bit of an idea. So, you know, in relation to it, did I read a lot of shit? Well, in some cases I did, but I was never a great literary sort of a person. Reading and writing was never my thing. I couldn't even read until I was in grade 3. You know, everything was done by pure observation, just by seeing. And ultimately, everybody wants you to jump through hoops. So I showed them I could jump through a hoop just long enough to get by and then forget all the crap that they said because I'm not interested. This is not what the world is supposed to be. And here we are, fucking decades later, I'm still thinking this is all fucking wrong. This is all an illusion. The world is but a stage, and they are all actors pretending to be fucking gods, politicians, whatever. It doesn't matter what ridiculous names you give them. They're carrying out the same fucking thing that has always been fucking done, and it's so painfully obviously observable. Wow. I was going to do something and I've totally forgotten what I was going to do. Oh, yeah. I'm going to show you this video so I can get to what Jason was going to show us.
This. Welcome to Britain. This is amazing. He gets arrested after, well, he got arrested.
A fucking cop, you are. Oi! Oi!
Wait.
What's that about? Wait, what notes are you taking down?
I'm just writing stuff down.
Well, like the fact that we're not doing anything.
Well, you're not
aggravating anyone.
Well, you are.
No, but like verbally.
I'm not doing anything.
I didn't mean to waste all your lot's time. We didn't think it would be this bad. The Arsenal one was way better, honestly.
I didn't do nothing.
I was at the last Arsenal-Chelsea one. Yid Army.
You're a Chelsea fan.
Wait, no, Yid Army's their team.
Can you nick him, man? He's used the word Yid Army, which is illegal, so let's nick him for public order. Let's get him out.
What? I thought that was a...
Just so we are absolutely clear, Yid Army is a self-adopted nickname and chant used by Tottenham Hotspur supporters, including both Jewish and non-Jewish fans.
What?
Come over here.
What? I thought that was a...
No.
What?
Mate, that's an offence. Come on, mate. All right, mate. You're currently under arrest.
Wait, no, is this real? There's no way this is real, right? What do these say that's illegal? Yid Army is a Spurs chant because they historically had a lot of Jewish fans. Spurs fans call themselves the Yid Army to take ownership of the term.
Violated public order. You heard what the sergeant said.
Why are you taking my phone? Can I get to my friend?
Turn around, mate. I need a handcuff.
Look at how many police officers there are. This is insane.
Arrested so we can conduct an investigation and to prevent any physical harm.
If you just asked me to leave, I would have left.
All right.
I didn't know you were waiting to arrest me. That's the Tottenham chant, and I sung it to a Tottenham fan. I wasn't trying to aggravate anyone.
They're going to have to conduct a search.
They're going to have to search him because he said a word?
Got anything on you that could potentially harm me?
No, absolutely nothing.
All right.
We're going to have to do a cavity search on you. People are calling this the most British video ever.
If you asked me to leave, I would have left. I would have given you guys an easier job.
Oh, mate.
I didn't even know that was a racist chant. I've never even heard that before. Last time I came to a Tottenham match, they were singing it, so I sung it as well.
The word Yid if you're trying to antagonise.
No, but they're part of Tottenham.
All right.
I didn't try and antagonise anyone.
So clearly,
I tried to show I was on their side.
So clearly, that's antagonistic.
To who?
All right. Clearly, that's a public order offence.
Bro, like, it's the Karen country.
So what, you can't arrest them?
It's all about context, sir.
But I said it to a Tottenham.
It's all about context. So they're all saying the same... Wait a minute. So they're all saying the same thing to him, walking by, the police are ignoring him, but he's getting arrested for saying...
What? That's not fair. Come on now. They've just five people just chanted it past you. What?
Oh my god.
And I've just got arrested for the same
thing.
thing.
The police officers too.
How is that fair?
It depends if you're trying to antagonise.
I wasn't trying. I'm explaining to you right now that I wasn't trying to antagonise anyone.
What the hell is going on over there?
Well, like the fact that we're not doing anything.
Well, you're not
aggravating anyone.
Well, you are.
No, but like verbally we're not.
Talk to pigs. You know, this is exactly the same as the social experiment we were referring to earlier. The cunt's been given a little bit of power. He's been chosen to be an authoritarian cunt. And he's accepted his role very quickly. Oh, look, quick, he said something I didn't like. Quick, I can do something other than stand in front of this building and be ridiculed by the general public for being an absolute cunt and defending the vile, venomous, disgusting excuse for godhood in the modern realm.
You know me. You're a Chelsea fan.
Wait, no, Yadami's their team.
Can you nick him in? All right, mate. You're currently under arrest. Keep your handcuffs on.
Yeah, free speech by the way. He's genuinely confused. He can be arrested and charged with a hate crime and now have his life ruined because of context decided on the spot by these clowns. The absolute state of the country arresting people for words. This would never make it to court. Well, yeah, because they just have to execute him, right? I mean, you can't have somebody saying this. I mean, you've got to shoot him.
Exactly. Fucking retarded. And if you are a pig, that's how you behave. That's a pig. You're not a defender of truth and justice. You're not defending shit other than your communist dictator piece of shit Elohims and your communist piece of shit Anunnakis and all the other vile, venomous scum that come from above or below, whether they come out of the ocean, whether they come out of the sky. They all seem to be teaching a very similar concept. Although, you know, to be fair, there are tales of those who come out to do benevolent things and tales who come out to be an absolute arseholes. Sadly, the absolute arseholes seem to win out more often than not. But anyway, Jason, you asked for it. Here it is.
Snout in the trough. Watch Albanese scoff. Then we chase him off. Elbow go to hell, that's what they yell. He's a pig anyway. Snout in the trough. Watch Albanese scoff. Then we chase him off. Elbow go to hell. That's what they yell, he's a pig anyway. Watch Albanese scoff. Then we chase him off. Elbow go to hell. That's what they yell. He's a pig anyway.
Jason, You're a fucking golden fucking human. I don't even know if human's a good word, to be honest. As far as it seems to, it's some claim that it's an animal term, so I retract it if it was offensive. But you're a wonderful soul, bright spark in a tool full of dud, in a tool shed full of dud tools. You know, hammers with a busted handle, blunt nails. You know, saws with no fucking jig. Well done. That was awesome. Cheers. Yes, Butterfly, he is definitely a brown noser. That much is for sure. Look, it's certainly not my music of choice, but the message is something I can get onto. To be honest, your Belinda says so catchy. So is everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of the team. Everything is awesome when you're a slave in a dream. Yes, I just ad-libbed and made up my own shit. Why not? In the middle of an acapella, why the fuck not? So, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed me sharing a peace of mind, and I hope it gives you peace of mind. Of course, you know, feel free to join me, NQ Freedom Network at protonmail.com. If you have observed things in the world you would like to share, because sharing is caring, and that's what I'm doing. I'm such an asshole. I share my thoughts and feelings with humanity. What a horrible thing to do in this day and age. It gets you arrested, you know, just for you know, shouting sporting chants, you know. Again, all you footy fans, fucking hang it up. Just let it go. They don't want you to do these things, clearly. And what are you doing? You're feeding the beast. You are feeding the Colosseum, the death and destruction, you know, the David and the Goliath. You know, let's pit people against each other in a, you know, UFC fight. Although I must say, if we're going to do sporting things, I'd much rather watch a UFC fight, because at least we're not fucking beating around the bush. We're not fuck-assing about. And I preferred the original, you know, couple of seasons of UFC where we actually were going, right, so what is the best style, you know? But unfortunately, like most things, it became a controlled, regulated, rule-based pile of shit, you know? And one must wonder, for those who did watch the original UFCs, you know, to see what was the ultimate fighting style. You know, it became a game of chess, where the jiu-jitsu became the dominant, and the grappling, and what is the idea behind grappling? You know, it's not to beat your enemy to a bloody pulp. It's to lock your enemy up so that they can't attack you any further. Perhaps that's the balance in the force. You know, of course, that's not very exciting to watch dudes man hug for half a fucking hour, or however long it takes for somebody to go, oh, fucking done, man. The battle of attrition. Oh, you win. You win. I'm spent. I'm out of gas. You know, and you see it with a lot of heavyweight fights as well too. They go out swinging real hard, you know, and if you don't get that fucking big axe swing in to bury it in your opponent's head in the first fucking go, you run out of steam pretty quickly, and you become the victim before you know it. So, you know, there's lots of ways of looking at the universe, lots of ways of looking at how things actually are. Balancing the force isn't exactly what we've been taught that it is. It's not light, it's not dark. Maybe it's just about peaceful coexistence. I think we can do it. I think it can be done. At the end of the day, stop attacking, stop fighting. We have to defend, obviously. You know, Jesus was happy to fucking go out swinging. That's for sure. If you believe that, I will dive into that in time to come. I've still got a lot of things to dive into and figure out. Well, not so much figure out, more prove. A lot of things, kind of, like I said, you know, I figured a lot out when I was real young, you know, very quickly. But trying to find the language that other people will understand, the points of reference to draw a comparison so that others can see, that takes a long time. Yeah. And you can't do that by wasting your time watching grown men play with their balls. You can't do that being distracted by mindless shit. It needs to be of worth. But even that, as I go back and I look at older things, the old Star Treks, the old, science fiction-y things, and all these old movies and shit, that I draw a lot of reference from, I draw that reference to speak in a language that I hope others understand. But of course, that'll be quickly outdated, much like a comedy routine that draws upon what's happening at the time. I found it a lot specifically with American culture, where they talk about celebrities and sports stars and all this. I don't know who the fuck these people are, so the jokes fall on deaf ears. It may be really funny to those who understand the reference to what you're making, but if the person doesn't understand the reference, then it's pointless. And everything very much is very societal in that structure. What is relevant, what is important, and it gets very frustrating, especially when I watch the kids growing up being distracted by some of the most mindless fucking shit you've ever seen, and it's clickbait. It's just there to distract people. It's just there to keep the likes going, and it was said to me a long time ago, you should do shorter videos. You should do this and should do that. And, maybe I should, it's something that's coming into my mind a lot more as of late. Just to try, I guess, to try and draw people into the bigger picture, and even this, we've spent 3 hours talking shit, but you still got to go and read that book, don't you? To get the full context of it. I haven't even finished it. I'm just grabbing bits and pieces as I see it, what's that? Leave them alone. They'll fall off when they are ripe. Yeah. Very good. Stop fucking with shit. Patience. Not bad. Like it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I think I've reached the point of inebriation where I'm going to become nonsensual, even to myself. And 3:13 just popped up, and now 23 to finish it off. So, ladies and gentlemen, one final sips to all you beautiful freedom lovers, freedom fighters. We have a long way to go on planet Earth before things are going to start. Well, things are starting to get better. I know it seems going through the dark ages again, but I feel things are getting better. But unfortunately, cattle prod is quite often required to make docile, farmed animals move. Time to kick down the fucking fences, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I got to say. May the bovines roam free today. Sips.